Hello and welcome to episode 6 of season 5 of the Sausage Factory. I am your moderator, Pizzal. Joining me tonight, I have got Rambo Raff. What's going on, Rambo?
Doing well. Really interested in this show. Talking about two great action heroes, and thank you for having me on the show.
Also with me tonight's Jay the Stingray. What's going on, Stingray?
What's going on, guys? I hope I don't get as angry as I did the last time we did one of these.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, that got heated, I think.
Yeah. Hopefully this one won't be as heated, but Stallone versus Schwarzenegger. There's going to be fire. There's going to, we never know. We'll see. Also with me tonight is Easy E. Eric, how's it going, buddy?
Going great, man. I'm happy to be back on. I think I skipped a couple episodes. I'm sorry about that.
Well, Orc is keeping count of your absences.
I know. I'm like 3 strikes, you're out, 8 times ago.
You're in trouble. Also with me tonight's the Professor B-Movie Mike. How's it going, Mike?
Hi, what's up, guys? I've been looking forward to this one. I think, like we said before the show, these are the Titans. These are the guys that personified the action hero. You can't go wrong with either one, and I can't wait to discuss their careers.
Absolutely. Couple of things I want to discuss before we dive into the show tonight. Number one, I got some really good news the other day from Chris. Now, you guys may remember Chris from our Halloween marathon fundraiser.
Oh, yeah.
He is, at this point, he's already moved back into his home. So that long nightmare is finally over, and he's finally back in his own home. So congratulations to Chris and his family. That was great news to hear. So
very cool.
Definitely.
That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Disclaimer number 2, we got to speak to Orc a little while ago. He's doing well. He's still recovering. He misses everybody, and he will hopefully be returning very soon to the show. So keep your positive vibes and dank thoughts directed his way. So, yeah. Also, disclaimer. These debate shows are just for fun. They're just for entertainment. We're not trying to say Schwarzenegger's better than Stallone, just like in our Friday the 13th versus Nightmare on Elm Street. We're not trying to say one is better than the other, because that's like comparing Coke and Pepsi. They're both great. Whoever wins, we all win. So this is just for fun. It's just for entertainment. And if anything, we're going to sort of lift up both of these titans, as Mike called them. And yeah, so we're hoping Cameron will be here shortly, as well as Cole. So, well, how have you guys been? Have you guys seen any good movies lately? We've been off the air for a couple of weeks.
Well, I think B-Movie might still recovering from Rogue One,
Which I finally saw, and not to start an argument before the main argument, I didn't really understand all the hate, but that's the only movie I've seen recently. Parenthood kind of blows from that perspective. You get stuck in the house a lot.
I've just been watching a lot of older John Candy movies, The Great Outdoors, These Trains and Automobiles, so Summer Rental, a lot of fun stuff.
Cool. And are you doing a John Candy review series on your channel now, Rambo?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm at The Great Outdoors, and what's next is Who's Harry Crumb.
That should be a lot more fun than the previous one, the Steven Seagal.
Yeah.
Yes, that's why I did it. So.
I used to love Who's Harry Crumb as a kid. I've not seen it in years, but I love that movie.
Fun one.
Yeah, love that movie. Has anybody else seen anything? What about you, Stingray? Were you able to go out and see Rogue One or?
Oh man, it's actually still showing. I keep telling myself I'm going to go see it, but I haven't had a chance yet. Unfortunately, I haven't really been to the theater in months, so I've watched a lot of stuff though. I saw The Monster. Have you guys heard of that one?
Is that the one about the mother and daughter that are stranded?
Mm-hmm. I finally got to see that. James had talked about it over on Facebook said it was really good. It's on Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
To watch for free if you want to check it out there. It was pretty good. I not quite as good as what I was expecting, but that's probably my fault.
I've heard of it. I've heard some pretty good things about it, but I've not had a chance to see it.
Yeah, I don't know, the main girl kind of screams and whines a lot, kind of get on my nerves. But
So how's that your fault?
for I guess overinflating it in my head for maybe expecting something too good.
Okay,
I always try to keep my expectations really low.
that happens.
It's a good
that
idea.
happens. Yeah, that happens. Have you seen anything else worthy? Did you? I recommended Train to Busan to you recently.
Yes,
Did you get a
I
chance
did
to check
see
that
that.
out? Okay.
I
Did you
did see
enjoy
it.
it?
It's very, very good.
Oh,
Very
yeah.
good. I need to watch it again. Actually, it's. I said this to someone on Twitter that as soon as you think the zombie genre is dead, a movie like that comes along and really kind of takes it in a different direction and really makes you appreciate it again, because we're flooded with this stuff, so it's nice to see something a little more refreshing and different.
Okay.
But really good. Korean.
Yeah, I actually saw. Have you guys heard of the movie Hidden?
No.
Like the one from the
Yeah.
80s, The Hidden?
No, not that one. That one's pretty friggin' awesome too.
Yeah.
The fact that movie doesn't have a Blu-ray is a crying
Yes,
shame.
yes.
A crying shame.
I've seen The Hidden too as well.
I've
That
not
one's
heard
also
things
good.
about that. Yeah, I've not heard good things about that.
That one does not
Suck
deserve
ass.
a Blu-ray.
But Hidden was the Duffer Brothers' first feature-length movie. The guys who did Stranger Things,
Oh, okay.
Ooh.
and it's
I have seen that. Really good.
Okay, yeah. I was gonna say it's kind of post-apocalyptic, pandemic kind of movie, but has a really nice twist, I thought, to it.
Yeah.
And, I really enjoyed it too. I really enjoyed it a lot too. So
I think that's on Netflix, isn't it?
is it? I
It
saw it
was.
on
When did it come out?
2015.
Oh, okay.
Pretty good. What about you,
No,
Mike?
not
Have you seen
anymore.
anything good?
Sorry, it was on there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've actually seen a few. I watched. I was in the mood for a laugh, so I watched Strange Wilderness, which was a Happy Madison production. It is stupid, but I love it to death. It's got Steve Zahn and the usual Sandler cast. About a guy whose dad runs a wildlife show, and he dies, and the stoner kid takes over, and they completely screw everything up. And funny flick. Lake Placid. I got in the mood to watch that. I love Lake Placid. Steve
I
Miner
love that
directed.
movie.
I had a good time with it. Betty White. I mean, every character in there is a good character. Albert Platt. I mean, I just love how they play off each other, and it's good stuff.
Highly underrated, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I watched a movie that came out last year. I got it on Blu-ray. It was called Deliver Us from Evil. It's about a New York cop.
Oh yeah, I've seen
Eric
that.
Bana.
Yeah. And I really enjoyed the film. I thought they did it well. Now, if you watch the special features, they have interviews with the real guy that wrote the book that it was based on. But he tells you that they changed a lot of stuff, which
Yeah.
Hollywood does that all the time. But I think in a case like this, it bothers me a little bit more when you find out what they changed just to add dramatic effect to the story. It didn't make me like the movie less. I still like the movie, but it made me want to see a different movie and based more on what really happened instead of adding in the usual Hollywood cliche bullshit. But I enjoyed the film. I recommend it.
Did anybody get a chance to go watch Split?
Oh, Shyamalan, I have no trust.
You know what? You may be surprised. The best thing, I did a review of it, and the best thing I could say about it was that it didn't feel like an M. Night Shyamalan movie. It didn't look like an M. Night Shyamalan movie. It didn't sound. I had no idea it was. I forgot it was an M. Night Shyamalan movie until M. Night Shyamalan himself popped up in it.
I got tired of being
Stop putting
Shyamalan.
his name on stuff. It just needs to release it, not M. Night Shyamalan presents. Just here's a movie.
Yeah, his branding sucks right now.
Just save the credits for the end of the film. All of them.
And quit being in your movies too.
James McAvoy is really, like, I thought when I first saw the trailer for that, I wanted to watch it because I thought, okay, this is either going to be really, really bad, or it's going to be really, really bad, but in a hilarious, silly kind of way. But he does his performance is awesome.
Now, for me, that would be the only draw to the film because the plot seems, I haven't seen it, maybe there's more, but it seems like a very one-note thing. There's a guy with multiple personalities. You don't know which personality is going to show next. Does he know what's going on between that's like the whole movie right there to me is, you know, how do his personalities control him to do whatever he does? Does he have control over them? Do the people, right? You know, but what goes, I don't know what could go on around that. It just seems kind of limited.
There's a lot kind of going on in the movie too, really. I don't want to watch him go through his various impersonations of other people. There's more than that. There's a lot more than that going on.
I will definitely have to check it out then. Sounds good. Because it looked good, but I just had that, you know, I saw the preview in the theater and I thought, you know, that, like you, it could be either really good or really bad, and it had that Shyamalan name on it, so I was kind of leaning toward the bad. Yeah.
But, you know, James McAvoy's great. Anya Taylor-Joy is really good in it. It's the first M. Night Shyamalan movie I can, like, fully recommend, to be honest.
You didn't like The Visit?
Oh, my God.
See, I'm a Shyamalan fan. I'll tell you guys, and I'll take all the hate you want to give me. I like The Visit.
I don't give you hate.
Well, truthfully, I hated The Sixth Sense so much that it took me a very long time before I ever watched a Shyamalan movie again. And then when I did, it was Signs, and I was like, "Oh shit, that was a mistake." Pop me.
Swing away.
Then I thought, well, Devil, the one about the elevator. Well, he's only producing that. Maybe that's not going to be so bad. It wasn't terrible, but it still wasn't great. How about the one where the trees were trying to kill Marky Mark? You know,
now that one. I'm not defending that
The
one.
Happening.
I have no confidence.
The Visit just killed my brain cells. When either the dirty diapers,
Man. I lost
the old
my mind when I
woman
saw that.
running like Speedy Gonzalez under fucking trailer, or like an old woman naked with a knife at your door, and then you tell your mom, "Oh, it's nothing. They're just old. They're just being old."
I think
what the fuck?
I think the worst thing about that movie,
I punch him in the face.
I think the most annoying thing about that movie was the little kid who raps.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes.
I just didn't understand what anyone thought. No one thought like an actual human being. It's like the mom was so stupid. I haven't seen my parents for like 20 years. I'm not even going to show a picture what they look like. I'm just going to dump them. She's so stupid. She raised her kids again. Hey, if an 80-year-old woman has her tits hanging out with a knife, it's just them old. That's just what old people do.
I wonder if that movie caused like a fear of old people.
That's kind of like my point about Shyamalan. He's kind of like the mainstream Uwe Boll. I mean, how about The Village? How about The Village? That was great.
Well, I mean, once you know the twist, it's worthless.
And they're usually stupid, and they're usually really stupid. Well, so Shyamalan is like Uwe Boll, where you throw out a name of a movie and you get collective groans. Like, how about The Village? How about Lady in the Lake?
Lady in the Water.
Lady in the Water, whatever. See, I can't. I think I tried to watch part of it, and I lost a little of my brain power.
I understand that. I saw that too. The woman who's like a not half fish, it's a fairy tale, whatever the fuck it was.
I like the guy with the gimp arm. He had like one like really buff arm and then like a really tiny arm, like a strong hand.
I know that was like M. Night's like complain the critics because he's like the guy who writes the story that's going to save the world. Yeah. I'm like, wow, that has no ego to it, does it, man?
Well, it's like he grew up watching The Twilight Zone and then did everything wrong. He's trying to be sterling, but he's shit. But I'm glad to hear his new movie's good. I might have to check it out.
Yeah.
I don't think Mike's going to check it out.
Netflix. Of course, I've got to check out Roger Corman's new classic,
Yeah.
Death Race 2050.
Dude,
That comes first.
that one blew my socks off the other day. I was like, what the hell? It's new? Oh, shit.
I heard a blurb about it. I thought they were just going into production. And next thing you know, I look at Netflix. Holy shit, it's done? I know he's fast, but damn.
Did you watch it, Stingray?
No, I haven't watched it yet. I was asking Mike if he had seen it because I know he watches a lot of stuff like that. I didn't know if I should waste my time or not, but
I think that I was spoiled on the twist, and I won't say it here, but that makes me want to see it. But then again, it kind of makes me in no hurry because now that I know, it's like, that's cool, but I can see it anytime now. But from that alone, I actually think it might be worth pursuing if you guys haven't heard it.
Oh, there's a split in Death Race 2050?
Oh, sorry, no.
Oh, split. Okay, sorry. I didn't know. Okay.
we're talking about Stallone tonight, so Death Race. There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
That's right. Death Race.
Machine Gun Joe.
Yeah. Speaking of Netflix and Amazon Prime, if you guys haven't seen Bone Tomahawk,
Oh, yeah.
watch it. Watch it. It was really good.
That was one of the better movies of, 2015 when that one came out?
Yeah. Yeah. Really enjoyed that movie.
Really haven't heard a lot of talk about it either. It's a really good movie.
Yeah. I haven't heard a lot of people. I had a lot of people recommend it to me back when I was doing some review requests, and I just got around to watching it probably a week ago, and I was like, wow, pretty good.
And I won't go into anything on Rogue One, but he brought it up. I'd have to spoil it. I would just say that the story is flawed when compared to A New Hope for several reasons. 'Cause it diminishes events in A New Hope and kind of retcons it a little bit. And the cast of characters have been pointed out has not been necessarily interesting, but I won't go into too much detail. But yeah, it's I actually watched Force Awakens again, and I actually ended up liking it more. And I wasn't really a fan of the film, but I watched it. It took a year. I gave myself a year, and then I watched it again, and I actually had a good time with it, even though it still borrows a lot from A New Hope as far as structure and storyline. And I don't like some of the things about Kylo Ren and stuff, but overall, I enjoyed the film, and I actually can say I could watch it again. But Rogue One, I don't see myself revisiting. I think it's unnecessary, and I didn't like the story. But that's it.
Right.
What do you guys think of the title for the next Star Wars movie was revealed, The Last Jedi? What'd you guys think of that?
It's
Whatever.
Return of the Jedi, Last Jedi.
Jizz.
Hopefully it's not a remake of
Also,
Return of the Jedi.
did you guys pick up on the fact that Star Wars, which is normally written in yellow, was written in red? Did you guys pick up on that little nuance as well?
No.
Isn't that how it was for Return of the Jedi? Wasn't that written in red?
I think it was.
Oh,
I know at least it was when it was Revenge of the Jedi, because I remember seeing those posters that had it written in red.
Well, I mean, they're definitely. I think they're going to channel some,
Yeah.
never. Yeah.
I hope it's good. I always hope it's good. I'm a Star Wars fan. I love the original trilogy, so I'm not sitting back here hoping that they make bad films. I want them to make good films.
Well, and Ryan Johnson's a really good filmmaker, so I mean, I have a lot of faith in him.
Johnson.
He did
I
Where
just
do I know
wonder
him from?
I just wonder how they're going to handle Carrie Fisher's death,
I
because she
think
had a big
Looper?
thing coming up in 9. There was supposed to be a confrontation between her and Kylo Ren that's not going to be able to happen. How are they going to be able to write around that? So
I heard they were not going to do a
CG.
CGI. They're going to somehow write her out, I guess.
They have filmed her scenes for Part 8, I think. They said.
I'm talking about
If I
9.
remember correctly, though,
no.
someone reviewed that Disney statement, and they thought that it was worded very carefully, which kind of gave them an out that maybe they could still do something. I have to look at it again. I found an article because I'm with you, Piz. I read that and I kind of thought that was disappointing, or maybe not. I don't know if I want to see them do a full CGI Carrie Fisher, but
hopefully it's better than what they did in Rogue One.
I would just say on that, Mike, that might be the one thing I did agree with you on. Her, like, it didn't really seem like her participation in that movie was necessary, or to have that character there. I thought everything else worked fine, and that just seemed kind of superfluous.
It ends like minutes before A New Hope begins, obviously.
Yeah.
Because she gets the thing, she takes off, they're in hot pursuit. The characterization of Vader in Rogue One is inconsistent to his introduction in A New Hope.
I didn't see that. That was one of the things I didn't really get about your criticism. I guess we can talk about it now. Like I don't really understand.
Well, you know when they had Yoda do a lightsaber fight, they went back in the past and he's jumping all over the place and he's really energetic, which is something he wasn't when he was 800 years old.
Yeah.
Well, they have Darth Vader do the same thing prior to a film where he does nothing but walk gracefully with stormtroopers in front of him like a battalion leader. You know, they bust into the ship and he walks in and surveys the damage and then does the interrogation. He's not running in with his lightsaber killing the guys in the hallway. So I thought having that scene prior to A New Hope, you're introducing Darth Vader doing something he never does again in the next 3 films.
Well, hold on. I mean, he's never really in a position to do that in the next 3 films. I would say the Vader of Empire
yes, that fight with
was fully
Alec Guinness
capable of
really
doing
slow.
that.
He's really slow and cumbersome, and he's more. He runs more on intimidation and pre-recognition.
But what about
Everybody
that
knows he's
fight
badass.
with Alec Guinness?
And he has the slow kind of gladiator fight with. He's not jumping around and knocking guys up off. It was a cool scene. It was a cool scene, but I didn't think it was.
He doesn't really
definitely
jump
no
around. He pretty
jumping
much goes in a
around.
straight line. He basically walks straight ahead, blocks all their blasts, cuts them down, pushes them back, slams around with the Force. He's not really jumping around or being acrobatic.
there's no
I
jumping.
agree he's livelier there than he appears to be in
the next 3 films.
In A New Hope.
So it was just the tone. That's all. They just made him too young, I thought, for a film that takes place minutes before the original.
Well, again,
He was fighting against fodder. He wasn't fighting against a Jedi.
that's kind of my point.
I always think that he would be more slow and measured when he fought against Obi-Wan, whereas these guys, they don't have the Force or anything. He just mows through them.
Right.
But he
I
didn't
don't
do
know.
that at the beginning of
I think
A New
the
Hope when they boarded Leah's ship. He was very slow and Emperor-like. He
Because he'd already done it, as they conned for us there. He already
was
did
tired.
it, got it out of the system.
He was blown up. He was tired. Well, anyway, Cole's joined us. Cole, how are you?
Yeah, I'm all right. Not as prepared for this as I would have liked to be, but I'm here.
Okay. Glad you're here. How have you been? Have you seen any good movies lately?
Oh God, not really. I mean, for things that I've been just doing with Jay on the side, behind your back. Seen some movies that way, but nothing new. I've been, really debating about seeing that Shyamalan movie because of things people said about it. And, there's probably worse ways to kill an afternoon. And I can't think of, so a lot of people, I don't think there's anybody out there that really loves all his work, but there's people that, they can usually point to 1 or 2 they thought were pretty good. I can go on record and say I like 0 of his films. None. But still, I might like this one. Why not? I'm a little surprised that after the last 7 or 8 years, he's had so many dismal failures that he's still sort of getting this opportunity. Although then again, having a movie coming out in January is not really the big opportunity.
It's made a ton of money.
And being
Yeah,
relegated
like I said,
to January is not a show of confidence.
Yeah. So I mean, I haven't seen anything except Rogue One.
Even
And
the visit
besides
made
Rogue One, the last movie I saw was back in the summer. I haven't seen anything new at all. So, just for the sake of that, I figure it's probably worth checking out. But
Wait, are you guys saying that XXX wasn't a good idea to release that in January?
It was expected that they would.
I don't think it was a good idea to revive the franchise.
Yeah, I mean, generally when Ice Cube takes over for you, they don't want to revamp it with the same dude that was in the original.
I mean, I hate to think how bad it's gonna bomb and just how much money they paid Vin Diesel. He's probably made so much money just to be in that film. They must have probably given him $25-30 million, I bet, at least. And I don't know.
Well, they probably gave Ice Cube $100 million.
Jeez.
Well, I don't blame Vin Diesel for doing the film. I mean, how many more Fast and the Furious is he going to milk out of that franchise? And he's what, 50 now? How many more years can he pull off the bald, badass, muscular guy look? You know, it's going to be.
Well, he can devolve into a less muscular, like.
And Pizzo, you know what's funny? There's a TV spot of Triple X, and Ice Cube is in the TV spot of the new Triple X.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, I've seen it.
So that's like his whole role, and they
more
gave it
than
away
they
in the
need,
TV spot.
I'm just
Has
surprised
anybody
it didn't-
seen the movie? I'm interested to
No.
know.
Is
There's
The Rock
no
in
way
it?
I'm gonna see it.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised if he popped up somewhere.
I couldn't
I
afford both.
actually like the first Triple X for the dumb fun it is.
Yeah,
I just
remember
don't know.
enjoying it.
Yeah,
It's
Aji
too late.
Argento in it.
It's,
Yeah,
it's
I watched it
way
for
too
Oscar.
late for a new one.
Yeah, me too.
Way too late. Yeah, I saw the first one in theaters, and I don't know if I've
Isn't
seen
it-
it since, except for in piece.
Isn't it funny
Yeah.
that you have a new Triple X, Resident Evil, and Underworld, and they all start in like 2001, 2002?
Yeah.
They're all-
That's how
they're all
bankrupt they are.
franchises of the
Terrible.
2000s.
You know what? That daggone Resident Evil movie is like tanked. It's tanked in America. It's made like $3 billion overseas.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can't fucking believe I hate those movies so
Those
much.
movies make a
They
ton
make
of
you so
money
mad.
overseas. They don't make anything here. They make millions overseas. That's how they keep making them. It's because they're so popular overseas.
Well,
Nobody's watching them here. Nobody's
Is
watching.
like Mila Jovovich, like worshipped like a goddess in like other countries or something? Because I remember finding out that like that David Beckham was worshipped like a god in certain places. So I thought maybe Mila Jovovich is worshipped, and maybe that's why those movies do
Well,
that well.
I hate those movies because, for one, I don't think they're very good. But it's all, oh, you're a horror fan? Oh, look, I got something for you. I got the new Underworld for you, buddy. You're gonna like this stuff right here.
But I'd rather watch
I hate what they
Underworld than
do
Resident
to
Evil.
a cool video game franchise. I mean, yeah, the Resident Evil video game franchise has had its lower points and its problems and stuff, but it was never sunk as low as these embarrassing movies.
Has anyone played the new game, Resident
I really
Evil
want to.
7?
It looks pretty cool.
I have the
I've heard it's great.
I have the demo.
Raiho played,
um,
Raiho played the demo. He said it was really scary. So that's
Yeah, I keep reading good things about it. Apparently, it's kind of getting back on track.
yeah, less actiony and more survival horror. Which
Yeah,
I'm all
I've-
for.
I've seen some playthroughs. It looks more like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre than like a zombie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. I'm glad they're trying something different.
Orchid and I were talking before the show, and there's the VR experience. You can pay like $600 for a VR headset and the
Yeah.
game, and apparently that's like a. I know my buddy Adam from the Idle Chatter show, who's been on this show in the past. He has the VR headset, and he says it's very intense playing that game in VR. Yeah.
I could
Can
imagine.
you just hook it up to your, what is it, the optic, I don't know, one of those, the other, I mean, do you have to buy this special headset for it, or does it
Oh,
work
the
with
Oculus?
Oculus, that's what it is.
I think you may have to.
There's
Yeah,
a,
I think
there's a specific thing on the PS4, and I think Xbox has something similar. That it's like you have to buy their headset, and it plugs in, and it's like $300, $400 extra.
That's the new thing now.
But is it
but the
gonna be
thing
new
is
Kinect?
In of itself, it's just like $300, $400, but it only works if you get the PlayStation version of the Kinect, and I forget what that's called, but PlayStation Camera or whatever. So it really is like $600 or $700 to get it, because to buy that plus the headset, it costs a shitload of money.
Cue my disinterest.
Yeah, I'm interested in VR, but if that's the price point, I'll wait a few years.
Yeah, you think it wouldn't be that much, because don't you remember like the mid to late 90s was when VR was supposed to come in? So you think, okay, all the time from that, they'd make it better and more affordable and stuff. Cause,
And Virtual Boy had me convinced
That
that was
was
the
it.
technology of the time.
I couldn't
Like,
believe
Lawnmower
it.
Man.
I remember going
What's
to
Lawnmower
like
Man?
like a special arcade that used to be, maybe it's still there. It's like at the foot of the CN Tower on a trip to Toronto, and they had like this cool arcade with all the latest games and stuff, and they had like VR for certain games. And I remember you could pay a whole bunch to play like Duke Nukem 3D, but with like the headset on, so you see all that. Yeah,
When I was a
wasn't
kid,
bad
I
for
was
what
in a
it was.
mall and actually in a competition where you put the VR and you shoot like bubble gum because it's for little kids. So
Oh,
and
wow.
I won like a purple like Fez ball or something. It's something they were doing at the Mall of America or something like that.
That's cool. You guys remember the episode of the X-Files with the VR headset?
You mean with the dominatrix ladies?
Oh yeah, where they're in the video
No.
game. I love that.
Pretty
episode.
much any like '90s show had a VR episode
Yeah.
for sure.
It's one of those episodes that I don't actually think holds up all that well, but it's still a fun episode to watch.
Do you remember the VR episode of A Saved by the Bell? Where
No.
uh,
What?
I remember a
There's a
Denzel
VR episode
Washington
of that?
movie called Virtual Reality.
No.
Virtuosity.
Virtuosity.
Yeah, virtual.
Virtuosity, is that what it was?
I like that movie. I think that movie's kick ass.
I
It
keep
was
going
based
back.
on
I'm like, oh man, that was Russell Crowe in that damn thing.
That wasn't. He was really good in that. That was like his one of his very early roles.
It was before he was fighting across the world.
Wait, isn't Denzel in that movie too? Virtuosity.
He stars it.
That's what.
He
Yeah.
stars
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
That's right.
I knew a
He's
movie I
like
was
the
talking about. I
hero.
just got the
And
name wrong.
Oh, I haven't seen that in forever.
Well, speaking of action movies, everybody follow the link in the description or head over to thesausagefactoryshow.com and cast your vote in our Viewer's Choice Live Commentary 80s Action Movie Edition. You can vote for Cobra, you can vote for Commando, you can vote for Die Hard, or you can vote for RoboCop. And
I might have to get drunk again.
let me make a quick check here, and I will see who is winning.
Not a good idea. I'll just be like Trump and then go from there. So no, probably not.
Cole's not gonna be happy with who's winning.
Okay, here we go. In last place with 13, we've got 53 votes to this point. In last place with 13% of the votes, Commando. Kind of surprised by that.
Yeah, same here.
In third place with 17% of the votes, Die Hard. Well,
that seems low to me. Jeez.
that does seem a bit low.
I guess that people want something different. You know, they've seen these movies from all the angles.
In second place with 30% of the vote, RoboCop.
Okay.
Oh, so that means wow.
And in first place with 40% of the vote, Cobra.
That's my fault.
I can't
Cobra's
say that I'm
decent,
disappointed.
but like I
It's
just
my
don't
favorite
see
film
that
of all
beating out.
time. What is it? It's my fault.
I must admit, I am one of the ones that voted Cobra.
Me too.
Actually,
I
I actually
voted
did vote. I didn't know we could vote, so I
I
didn't vote.
very much like Cobra. I just don't see it beating out those other choices. I would.
Well, I think that's because what Cole was
I
saying
think it's
is that
because
not many people
these are
talk
big.
about Cobra, but everyone talks about RoboCop and Die Hard.
Right. So I
think
can
that's
understand.
why
I can understand it from
in
that,
that
angle.
aspect.
I just
Got
wish
it.
it wasn't Cobra. I like the concept of Cobra, like the idea, like if you read like what it's supposed to be out. I just don't actually like it once it's put into execution. So I feel like you could like make a decent like reimagining of Cobra. Maybe.
They did. It was called Fair Game,
No, I didn't see
based
that.
on the same novel.
There you go. No, I didn't see that, but maybe I
Oh,
should.
with
Cindy
Cindy
Crawford.
Daniel
one of
Baldwin
the-
and
yeah.
yeah,
Baldwin.
back when Daniel Baldwin could headline a movie like that.
He should never headline a
No
movie.
doubt.
Best Baldwin.
He's Stephen Baldwin. You mean?
Yeah,
That's the best Baldwin.
Oh yeah, I don't even remember. Maybe it was Stephen Baldwin, whichever guy it was.
No, it was Daniel Baldwin, but Stephen Baldwin did Biodome, so he's obviously the best one.
Which Baldwin is the one that's not related?
Adam Baldwin.
Adam Baldwin.
from
Yeah.
Full Metal Jacket.
Yeah.
Adam Baldwin.
I always
one in
get
Biodome, I think's
Steven
been
and
kicked out
Adam
of the
mixed
family.
up.
Stephen
Yeah.
Baldwin.
Yeah, I get those two confused.
But
Yeah,
if you
something
guys aren't happy with the way that the vote is shaping up, go to the website, cast your vote. Let us know what
Please.
movie you want to see us do a live commentary for, and you've got a couple of more weeks to vote. So let your voices be heard, people.
It'd be the second time I've on my channel actually did a fan commentary for Cobra. So it'd be the second time. So I'd be fine with another movie doing a commentary. And I love Cobra to death, but I already did it.
Apparently, a lot of people in Sausage Factory Nation love Cobra too. So
I just feel like out of those, I've probably seen Cobra the least. Is kind of why I wanted to do it.
Definitely.
I'd agree with that.
I love that one.
I love it too. Yeah.
Pig. Great movie, man. I love that movie.
Yeah.
This is where law stops and I start.
I'm gonna contact Brian Thompson and see if he can't get in for that shit.
That would be awesome.
Yeah,
We could just have him do the dialogue like, pig.
See you eyes, pig.
Oh
Yeah,
god.
I do not remember any lines from Cobra.
I just remember that
Oh, that's
the
hilarious.
guy who pissed on Seinfeld's couch is his partner. Was it Poppy? Poppy
wow.
from Seinfeld. I'm pretty
Really?
sure he's his partner.
Rennie
That's hilarious.
Santoni, and that's because he was Dirty Harry's original partner in the first movie.
Yeah,
Rennie Santoni.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, head over to the website, cast your vote today. Well, let's go ahead and let's dive into the topic at hand. We're going to be a little lopsided because Cameron has not joined us just yet. But let me tell everybody who the teams are. For the Stallone team, we've got Rambo Raff. Rambo Raff is also the team leader of the Stallone team. Also on the Stallone team is Eric, Eazy-E, and Cole.
Yo, Adrian.
On the Arnold side of things, we've got B-Movie Mike, who is the Arnie team leader,
I'll be back.
and Jay the Stingray. And Cameron will be on the Arnold side too if he decides to join us. And I will do my best to moderate. So
My Arnold impression is
Arnold's so
terrible.
strong.
This will be fun.
He doesn't even need anybody on his team.
okay. Okay.
Really dig.
Well, let's go ahead and let's dive right into it. And let's get to the meat of these two titans. Let's talk about body count. Who has the most prodigious body count of these two titans? And I'm going to let the Arnold side go first because you're a little undermanned. Mike, you've got the floor.
I believe I saw that the Austrian oak was up to about 509 on the kill count last I checked. I'm not sure what Stallone's numbers are, but I think that's a pretty good number. Pretty hard to beat. You never know, though. Stallone, with the Rambo films, he could have killed a few extra. We don't know. Somebody have that number, but 509, I believe, is the Schwarzenegger number, and that's a pretty respectable number.
Okay. Stingray, you got anything to add?
No, I think it's pretty hilarious that there's a hard number on that.
So I was
For
gonna
movie
say,
nerds, it shouldn't surprise you.
You know, somebody sat and went through every Arnold Schwarzenegger movie and counted that every kill.
I think
How
I
many
read that on IMDb. I think that might
How
be
many
on his
people died in
IMDb.
Junior?
300.
Just people's souls.
Could you imagine?
They died on the inside.
Could you imagine that person during Commando? He'd be like, "What?"
Well, I was just gonna say, Commando is the one I'm aware of, where like it's something like I think 56 on-screen kills are absolutely like confirmed or something, and then you can just guess how many come afterwards.
He was a lawnmower, man.
Commando's like the one movie that'll make you like die of alcohol poisoning if you try to do like a drinking game with it.
I've been down that road.
I mean, in the end, he single-handedly invades a country.
That's true. That's true. That's absolutely true.
And wins.
Yes.
Mic drop.
They're showing what 81 people just in Commando.
Wow.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
something like that.
And that's just confirmed. God knows how many, collaterals. You never know.
I found a list that was 809 for Schwarzenegger
Hmm.
and 786 for Stallone. So
Ooh.
he
That's
wins
quite
in
close.
kill count.
Yeah.
Quite good.
Okay.
I always think of the end of Rambo, the fourth Rambo.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Stallone like
really put him over the
blows
top.
through like friggin' however many people. But again, yeah, the Commando thing, like those are comparable kill counts, I'd say.
That's why I said I didn't know about Stallone because of the Rambo films. He may have surpassed him, but that does sound pretty close. And they were competitive, so I can believe Stallone probably hears it from Arnie.
In Rambo 2, he won back the Vietnam War, so there's that.
That's true. That's true. He
72
the end
kills
result
in
of
Rambo 2.
Vietnam.
He got revenge for Vietnam.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Conan
With a
Conan killed the Snake
it's-
King and became king of the land,
Well,
Okay, that's
and
that's
Darth Vader at the same time.
well, hold on a second. Rocky ended the Cold War. So what are we gonna do here?
Because if you can
We
change,
can all
and
change.
if I can change, then anybody can change.
The
What about-
Terminator tried to erase history.
Okay, that's a good one. What about this? Since the kill counts are so kind of, they're pretty even, let's talk about the most memorable kills. And I want to start with the Rambo side. Go ahead, Rambo. Or I'm sorry, the Stallone side. Go, Rambo.
Memorable kills. A couple that come to mind. First off, cliffhanger. You take a guy, you lift him up, and you impale him up top with a stalactite. Very original. Never seen before. Done Rennie Harlan R-rated style. And Rambo 4 alone, you got ripping throats out. You got cutting heads off. You got shooting a guy point blank with a 50 caliber and turning him into paste.
That's what I was thinking.
Those, right there at the top of your head. It's, let's see, what's that?
Explosive arrows.
Rambo 2, getting the explosive arrow to the guy who killed Cole, blowing up in smithereens. Rambo 3, he rips the tags on the grenades, puts a rope on his neck, jump kicks him, the guy hangs and blows up. So it's the double kill. And also a kick to the face for good measure.
It's adding insult to injury right there.
Insult to injury. But
Absolutely.
the others on the Stallone team have some they come
Yeah,
to
go
mind.
ahead, Eric, Cole.
He took all the good ones, because the one that stands out most sharply in my mind is that one kill from Rambo where the dude's in the Jeep and he like runs up into the back and like pulls the gun up and the guy just explodes. Like that I remember, like, in the theater that I was in, because I went to see that in the theater, like a bunch of people went like, whoa, like there was an audible like audience reaction to that, which I thought was kind of cool. Morbid but cool. I don't know. I think you hit on a lot of the good ones. I'm trying to think.
Don't a lot of people explode in Rambo? The most recent Rambo? Don't a lot of people just explode into like red
That's true,
mist?
because like that whole final scene, he's
Well, in
like
the end,
firing
yeah,
up
he's got a huge
50
like
cal
turret thing.
It's
Yeah, so he's like hitting people
Caliber,
with 50
yeah.
cal
lots of
rounds.
CGI squibs.
Yeah.
And
Some of them are
getting
practical,
blown
though. Some of them are
off.
practical.
Oh, are they? Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, I really
It's kind of-
enjoyed the last Rambo film. I thought it was brutal, and I really
Yeah.
enjoyed it for that reason.
I did too.
That was great.
Yeah.
Totally. Cole, are there any memorable Stallone kills that stand out to you?
Like I said, it's just I wish I'd taken the time to see few more movies more recently, so they've been more fresh. Because I know he does all sorts of good ones, even in some of his lesser movies like Demolition Man.
That one.
Doesn't
He freezes his head and he
his
punches
head
it
off.
off.
There you
That's
go.
Or even
I knew there was something good in Demolition Man. I knew it. Yeah.
Or even in Cobra, he takes the guy, puts him on a hook, the guy's screaming in pain, reels him into fire so he can burn slowly to death. Brian Thompson's character.
Yeah.
While he's screaming in pain with a hook coming out of his chest. That's pretty
You also have to say that his role in Demolition Man is also good, worth pointing out for kills and stuff, because basically he and the bad guy are like reintroducing society to the concept of murder. So I always think that's pretty significant, that they're living in a society where nobody kills anybody anymore. So he comes and he's like the first guy in several decades to show them how it's done, which I think is great because it's like educational too.
And he got to have cyber sex with Sandra Bullock, so that was cool too.
There you go. He got to kill a lot of people and have cyber sex with Sandra Bullock.
And wipe his ass with shells.
Are we going to be debating sexual prowess and sexual part?
Well, I mean, if you want to talk about having sex with your daughter, then yeah. Because she's his daughter.
Who?
It's crazy.
Sandra Bullock in Demolition Man, right?
No,
she's not.
no, she wasn't.
Pretty sure she is.
No, she's not.
You're thinking about Old Boy. How dare you compare those two?
Spoilers.
No, there is a theory that she is his daughter, though.
I think
there was a deleted scene where there's another girl who is his daughter, but it was cut out. And you see her throughout the film as part of Dennis Leary's crew, but it was cut out for deleted scenes. Like there's a woman with Dennis Leary, and that's supposed to be Stallone's daughter, but they cut it all out in Demolition Man. Same with the Jesse Ventura fight he was supposed to have between him and Jesse Ventura. They cut that out in Demolition Man. Because Jesse Ventura was part of Wesley Snipes' crew.
Demolition Man might have been the most 80s, 90s movie, I think. Like, that movie very much feels like it could have been made in the 80s. There's just, like, between Stallone's character and Wesley Snipes' villain, there's just so much about that movie that just feels like it belongs, what was that, like 93, 94? It belongs like 5 years in the past, I think, in terms of being made.
It's when the 90s were already starting to feel nostalgic about the 80s. So,
It's right. Like every line is a one-liner.
Yes.
You couldn't blame us for being nostalgic. You weren't there. Not in the capacity we were. 90s were disappointing.
Cameron has joined us. How are you doing, Cameron?
Who wasn't
great.
there?
Okay. Cameron, you are on the Arnold Schwarzenegger side tonight.
He was
And
between the two, he's the only one that was mentioned by Donald Trump this morning. Just want to say that.
We weren't going to get political. We already made that pact before.
Yeah.
All right, points.
We come here to escape that shit. We're just here to have fun.
Yes. But now let me
was having
turn the floor over to the Schwarzenegger team. Most memorable kill from a Schwarzenegger movie. Take it, Mike.
Well, the first one that I remember that had the biggest impact was when I mentioned Conan, Thulsa Doom, when he chopped his head off at the end. And he comes up behind him, and Thulsa's trying to get inside of his mind, and he just whack on one side and then whack on the other and pulls his head off and throws it down the steps. I mean, that was like, damn. Yeah. And it's the first time I'd seen something like that in like a non-horror film. I thought it was really, really graphic. But Schwarzenegger, I mean, Commando is like a greatest hits.
Yeah,
I was just calling that movie.
He kills everybody in creative ways in that film. And I think he was the one that really made it popular to have a punchline after you killed somebody.
Stick
Let
around.
off some steam, Bennett. And before that, I mean, he would kill somebody, stop, one-liner. I mean, he was kind of the guy that
But
really...
the thing about
That's a good point, and that should definitely not go unnoted. Schwarzenegger probably is the innovator of the one-liner post.
Well, before that, it was James Bond. He even admits in
Yeah.
interviews he got that from James Bond.
Yeah, but Duke
But he
Nukem's not based
definitely-
on James Bond.
Right.
So
Well,
that has influenced the pop culture to the point where they made characterizations of him. Saturday Night Live, we will pump you up. You're a girly man. I mean, Schwarzenegger, his sense of humor, I think, was more there. He always had that sly smile and the wink more than Stallone played it more straight.
Yeah.
He didn't have.
Well, he was
more
always like a tortured hero.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Rambo's a perfect example of that. I mean, like, Rambo doesn't really want to be killing people necessarily. He does it, but he doesn't seem to get much enjoyment out of it.
First Blood is not a feel-good movie.
Oh, definitely not.
It's a good movie, but it's not a feel-good movie.
And in First Blood, only one guy dies by falling off the helicopter.
Helicopter,
yeah.
Oh, that's true. Oh, wait, no. He kills Brian Dennehy.
No, he doesn't.
wounds
No, he
him
doesn't.
No, he
because he's
doesn't kill him.
breathing.
Oh, really? I thought he killed him. Okay.
Yeah,
They
the
shot
only,
him
kill
in,
you can absolutely confirm is the helicopter.
Got it. Okay.
Well, I was just going to quickly throw in. Mike's mentioned Commando. Commando has a lot of awesome scenes in it, but I remember as a kid, that tool shed scene is the moment where I felt the movie just crossed into like almost like horror, because it's just like, the gun stuff you can take, but like the moment you break out the machetes and the saw blades and
That was going to be mine, the saw blade.
When he becomes Jason Voorhees.
and then he takes that one axe and just completely shoves it in that guy's crotch. It's just, oh my god, it's horrible.
And then the comedy aspect when he's holding that guy over the cliff, he goes, "Remember when I promised to kill you last? Yeah, you did. I lied." And he just drops it. Such attitude,
Oh yeah.
And Terminator films, and then you just go on through Total Recall and Running Man.
Yeah.
How he took out the Gladiator guys and stuff. I mean,
Well, you guys mentioned Demolition Man. Well, Stallone got that probably from Schwarzenegger, because Schwarzenegger's difference between him and Stallone was that Schwarzenegger had he went the sci-fi action horror route, and Stallone didn't go that way in the 80s. So that's what kind of differentiated the two guys. And that's why I think Schwarzenegger kind of had the bigger of the hits because it did push into other boundaries, you know. And think of and he always sided with like the best directors. I mean, you know, he was always Paul Verhoeven, James Cameron. He would always find who he could work with to get better at his craft and be in the best movie. I mean, he would go on Arsenio Hall for Terminator 2 and just say, "This summer, I'm in the biggest film of all time." And so he would just come on. And Stallone, as great as he was, never had that kind of bravado where he was just.
So, you know, Schwarzenegger knew what he was, and he knew how to sell it, and he was not ashamed whatsoever. He was, he would sell his ass on national TV to get his movie made. You know, I mean, you have to admire that guy. He had drive. He became the best bodybuilder in the world, arguably. He's got the most titles. You know, then he conquered the film world. You know, he went on to do other things he wanted to do later in life, and he was pretty successful at that for the most part. The guy is personification of the American dream, coming from nothing and going to everything, and he enjoyed his ride the whole time. And his movies were like events. I mean, sure, some of the later Rambo sequels were fun. You know, like Rambo 3. By that time, you know, most of the motion part of it was mainly just an action film. It was a great film. But Stallone, Schwarzenegger films were events. People knew they were going to be a good time. They knew he was going to throw one-liners. He knew people were going to get killed in just ridiculous ways, and it was going to be ridiculous action.
And when Schwarzenegger decided to do a comedy, it still was a blockbuster hit. I mean, Twins was huge.
Kindergarten Cop, that's his favorite film of all the movies he's made. Kindergarten Cop is his favorite. He wasn't afraid. He said, "Sure, I'll do it."
I prefer.
He wasn't afraid to fail. He said, "Failure is what you learn from. Don't be afraid."
I love it.
I think he lived it the way he said it.
Yeah. Well said. Definitely well said. Well, and you mentioned event film that a lot of Schwarzenegger's movies were event films. What were some of, when I think of an event film, I think of Terminator 2. Terminator 2 is still, in my opinion, the biggest event film of my life, really. Mm-hmm. That one is the one that I think of, and it was huge. And I don't think anything's captured it. Has been that huge since.
So 91 was his best year. That was definitely when he peaked.
But
I think you could make the case that like the new Star Wars was probably like that, or maybe some of that stuff.
Well,
unless we think that's outside of the genre.
I've thought about that. I've thought about it. Was it just because I was young? Was it just because I was more excited for that movie than I was like for the newer Star Wars movies? But when I really think back upon it, I mean, even my mother was talking about Terminator 2. My mother doesn't give two craps about the new Star Wars movies. Even my mother back in the day was talking about Terminator 2.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, James Cameron had tested out, some of the special effects in The Abyss, and then when he perfected it in T2, anything like that before. And I'll just go one step further. 91 was huge, but people, maybe the young ones don't remember how literally huge True Lies was in 1993. It was.
That was another one.
It was big.
It was big, and that was
true.
Yeah, 94. Yeah.
Yeah, 94. Sorry, I get that confused with Jurassic Park year, but because back then movies played for over a year in the movie theaters.
Yep.
Yeah.
As opposed to barely a month.
So that's what I meant by event film, because, he was smart. His instincts, he trusted his instincts. He knew what made you popular was what you gave them. So you knew when you went to a Schwarzenegger film that he was going to give you what you wanted to see. And that made it an event. It was going to be something all your friends could get together and you could laugh and joke and have a great time. It's like party movies. They're just so ridiculous.
And even a lesser movie of his, let's say like Red Heat in 1988, is still better than most people's action films of the 80s. So.
And really, his instincts led him to be the Terminator, because when he originally read the script, they wanted him to be Kyle Reese. And he said, "No, I want to be the Terminator." Like, "No, you don't understand. Kyle's the lead. That's the starring role." He said, "No, trust me. Make me the Terminator."
Yeah.
So he was very smart. He knew himself and he knew his audience, and that really helped him.
Well, let me turn the floor over to the Stallone team, and I don't. This train of thought will level out a little bit, because I will eventually talk about franchises, And I think Stallone has more recognizable franchises. Because, I mean, really, he has two, and Schwarzenegger just has really one. But let's talk about some event movies for Stallone.
Well, I mean, I think definitely 1985 was his biggest year because he had Rambo First Blood Part 2 and Rocky 4.
Yeah.
And those were the two biggest hits of the year. And especially Rambo First Blood Part 2, that was a phenomenon to the point that so many movies, so many people, even though there were kind of movies like that before, like Vincent in Action, or in 1983 you had Uncommon Valor, like POW, the One Man Army, Rambo First Blood Part 2 really fluctuated the one-man army aspect of going either somewhere. I mean, even that was the same year Commando and Rambo First Blood Part 2. Even Arnold was a bit mad that Rambo First Blood Part 2 made more money.
Oh, yeah, they were very competitive.
Yeah.
But let's not forget that who co-wrote Rambo 2, James Cameron. So he played a factor in both these guys' lives.
Wow, yeah.
But I mean, I would say Rambo First Blood Part 2 maybe the event film, not just how huge it was, worldwide phenomenon, like all over the world, people would talk about it. But it just, First Blood, great movie, but Rambo 2 made that character into pop culture to the point you had a cartoon, to the point you had all those action figures, to the point that he was everywhere being sold, from video games to everything. And just so many movies were influenced by that, even to the point of, let's get a Rambo-gram, like in that movie Choppy Mall. Those fuckers are Rambo-gram.
Was that his reaction to Schwarzenegger's Rising Star? Was that his, oh yeah, you can do that, watch what I can do here? Was that the start of the competitive nature with Schwarzenegger? Because, when he did Rocky, he wasn't really cut. He was kind of big, but he was soft. And in Part 2, he was a little more. But by the time he got to 3, he was ripped. And by that time, Schwarzenegger had made an impact, and everybody wanted the big muscular guys because Schwarzenegger was the one that started that trend.
I would bet Arnold saw how much more Rambo 2 made, and that made him. He's a competitive guy since bodybuilding, and he wanted to be the top guy, and he felt maybe that he lost the box office race. And so after that, I don't know if there was competitive before. Maybe there was, but I think after, that's definitely the start of the huge competitive nature of the box office. Because, okay, then I'm going to do Predator, or I'm going to do The Running Man, or I'm going to do... And then that's Stallone. He didn't do as many action films in the 80s. I mean, other than Tango and Cash or Rambo 3. He would try to take some risks, like a prison movie or a big paycheck movie, which I sincerely love Over the Top, but even Stallone said he did that only for the money. He did that for a big paycheck. Just the Cannon Group were desperate to be a big studio franchise. They figured, well, Stallone's a big guy. Let's pay him a lot of money for this movie. It didn't work out well because it flopped badly, even though I love Over the Top. I know most people don't like it, but that's one of those movies I grew up with, but I don't just love for nostalgia reasons. I love it for a lot of reasons. But it flopped. And, I can't sit here and say that Schwarzenegger did have more hits. Those are the facts. He had more hits in the 80s because he knew what he was. He was a product, and he sold his product.
He found the mine of gold, and he mined it. This is what they want. This is what I'll give them. And they were entertaining films, though. It weren't like they were shitty films. I mean, he actually delivered. And wanting to be the best is what drove him. And and Stallone, he made some choices that I question, but he made some good films. I like the films that you mentioned, Lock Up, and stuff like that.
I would just like to throw in there that Schwarzenegger had to be an action star, whereas Stallone, he didn't start out as an action star. He kind of got molded into one. So in a way, he could have just kept going as an actor if he chose to.
Well, that's what I was kind of meaning. If you watch like Rocky and The First Blood, he was more of a dramatic, actual actor where he was taking the serious parts and blending into the character, and and here comes Schwarzenegger blowing shit up and shooting people, spouting one-liners, and everybody's like, yeah, that's amazing. And then Stallone had to kind of change it up a little bit to kind of keep relevant. But I think Arnie really hammered it home. And then with T2, what did Stallone do that year? I mean, sir, he had Rocky 2, Rocky 3.
He had to stop or my mom will shoot.
So by the time we hit the 90s, I think really Schwarzenegger was really rolling because he never really changed. He kept putting out the Schwarzenegger movies, and then we started getting, what was that racing car
Oscar
movie?
was 91.
Oscar.
But I remember
But I mean, you can just flip this all the other way, though. I mean, we're just talking about products and selling and success, but I mean, I don't even know what category we're judging them by anymore because we're flat out admitting Stallone was probably the more talented actor.
I would definitely say that.
Stallone had more integrity. Stallone had more self-respect. Stallone had more interest in trying different things.
Yeah,
he was the auteur of the two. Yeah, but without Stallone, then you don't have Dolph Lundgren in Rocky IV.
Right. Well, we were talking about.
That's why
we were talking about. Crap. Event movies. Who had? Yeah. What movies could we consider event movies from Stallone's catalog of work?
I would say Rambo First Blood Work 2, and also to extent Cliffhanger, because Stallone
that was big. I remember that being big.
Yeah, Cliffhanger was a pretty big one.
And that beat out Last Action Hero. Then Demolition beat out Last Action Hero, and that was sort of. I think that's one of the things I like about Stallone, is he's so many times when he's out, he'll make that comeback. And almost every decade he's done it. In the 2010s, it was The Expendables, which no one thought anything of, but it made a comeback.
Well, hold on a second, because it was really Rocky Balboa that revived.
Yeah, Rocky Balboa, Rambo 4. Yeah,
which were great films.
And that's what
I meant from
for Expendables.
2010 onward. The 2000s, I was going to say Rocky Balboa. Like each decade, there's at least that one movie that he's come back and done well. #1 box office, as well as I sincerely enjoyed the movie as well. But
I don't think we should punish Schwarzenegger for not being the sensitive artist type, though. I mean,
I'm not saying punish.
I'm
just saying it just depends upon how you see these points. I mean,
I would definitely say that Stallone is the more talented filmmaker, definitely. But I think Last Action Hero gets a lot of shit. Really shows Schwarzenegger's sense of humor and how he's able to make fun of himself and the genre that made him rich. It was like the Scream of action films. It was brilliant.
I have to ask about that though. Like, how much of that is Schwarzenegger controlling his own destiny, and how much of that is people casting him? Because I mean that's a difference too. Is I think in some ways Stallone was kind of master of his own destiny in that he would write some movies, he would direct some movies. He was clearly like trying to pursue story and producing and that kind of stuff. Whereas Schwarzenegger, you're right, he knew of himself as like a product. He's this kind of guy. He's going to do these kinds of movies. But like, was he really so smart for getting Last Action Hero? I mean, is he who they always?
Well, I mean, the guy didn't have an agent.
It's almost
Mike did mention earlier that he was smart enough to know when it came to Terminator, he didn't want to play Kyle Reese. He wanted to play the Terminator.
You're like basically saying that Schwarzenegger was Elton John, and Stallone was Elton John, and Schwarzenegger was Kiss. All flash, no substance, blah, blah, blah. So
I'm not saying that at all.
He wasn't a sensitive little guy playing piano, so therefore it's not acceptable or something. Kiss is about show. I mean, sure, same 3 chords, stupid lyrics, whatever, but it's entertaining, and that was Schwarzenegger.
First of all, I'm not saying that at all. And in fact, I would note...
I didn't know that's what Kiss was. So.
Like, for an emotionless cyborg in Terminator 2, I would argue that's probably one of his best, like, acting emotional performances. Like, that end scene always gets me. What's the line? Like, I now know why you cry, though it is something I can never do. Like... Even delivered like a cyborg robot Austrian guy, like again that gets you like right in the feels, and I'm not picking on him too much for that way. I'm just saying like I think you're just attributing a lot of like he picked this movie and he picked this movie, and I'm just asking the question. I don't know. Maybe you do. Maybe does. Somebody like was he just being casted? Were people courting him? Like how many of these were his active decisions?
I think both guys could smell out a good story. One guy wrote it, the other guy just read it. I mean, they were both very talented in the projects that they chose for themselves. I think Stallone knew what his strengths were, and he played to his strengths, and Schwarzenegger played to his strengths, and they were both equally legitimate. I mean, it just depends on what it takes for you to respect somebody. I mean, like I said, I like Kiss.
Hey, nobody was picking on Kiss. You brought them up.
No, a lot of people are like they stink, they're worthless, you know, they're shills.
They do?
You know,
Well, I
like,
don't like them, but I'm not going to bring that to the argument.
Well, let's talk
Let's watch
about let's talk about some their being businessmen or being being smart with their careers. Let's talk about their franchises. Who has the better franchise? And when you think of Stallone, you can really think of three: Rambo, Rocky, and the Expendables.
Right.
When you think of Arnold, you think of Terminator.
And
there's a reason
Conan.
for that.
I
Conan.
suppose Conan.
But that
Conan, kind of okay.
that's the reason for it was the failure of the second Conan film really put him off of doing sequels. It was he only did T2 because it was James Cameron and he loved the character. That's what he said. That's why he's avoided doing sequels.
Well, that doesn't explain T3, T4, Genesis.
Well, he technically wasn't in T4.
It wasn't in T4.
He kind of was.
Oh, that's
Well,
true. He
his
But the
CGI
Terminator character
face.
is his favorite character. Kindergarten Cop's his favorite movie, but he loves the Terminator, and he'll basically do that anytime. That's like the one thing that he'll do
I
anytime
never knew
somebody
he
asks.
thought Kindergarten Cop was his favorite movie. I never knew that.
Well, let me ask you guys
Why?
this.
Because he got to yell at children, I guess.
Let me ask you guys
Likes
this.
to beat it.
Even though Stallone has the three franchises under his belt, and I'm not even going to give you Conan. Let's just Terminator. Schwarzenegger has Terminator under his belt. Which is the bigger, more recognizable franchise? Any of the Stallone three or Terminator?
Terminator.
That's see,
I
that,
think
that
Rocky-
really
Depends on who you're talking to,
that's
right?
the question. It really is.
Really
Who doesn't know Terminator? Who doesn't
No,
know
listen,
Rocky?
no,
Who doesn't
listen,
know Rambo?
To the
I
not, I'm not talking about to people. I'm talking about to just a random sample of people. Who do you guys think? If you
For
just
me
threw those
personally, I mean, my favorite's always going to be Rambo, but I would honestly go it to Rocky, only to the point of just how the story, even if it was just the first one or the sequels, how many people were influenced, not only in the sports realm, but just how many people saw that movie, the Million to One Shot story, and
Yeah.
even the sequels, which are much more fun. They're much more of a like the 80s Rocky 4. I love Rocky 4, but I know it's more of an 80s pop culture fun, less
Right.
of emotional. But people grow up with those movies, and I have nothing against the Terminator. I love the Terminators. The first one's my favorite of the group. But for me, the Rocky Balboa character, I think just the fact that people will look at it and be inspired. So many times you would read about people, they were inspired just to walk up the steps or to look at the statue in Philadelphia, or I got inspired to be in the sports because of this, or how
That's
many
true.
sports films, not even just sports films, but just how many people personally got inspired. And I don't,
They have a statue of a fictional character in their city. That's a very good point.
I mean, how many fictional characters are popular enough to, I could easily say he's one of the more inspirational fictional characters in film history.
Yeah. But that's not to take away from
No, I'm not taking away from that. I'm just, from my own personal view, I feel it's Rocky Balboa. But that's nothing against. But I love Rambo to death, and that's nothing against Terminator. Just for the question at hand, my personal pick would be Rocky Balboa. For the
I just think Rocky's the tiebreaker, right? You could say that Rambo and Terminator are almost equal in their stature amongst pop culture. You always hear people reference and say, you can't go in guns blazing like Rambo, or this guy's like the Terminator. Like, those are both equal. And then I'd say Rocky's the tiebreaker because
As far as box office, Terminator beats both of those films combined.
Well, I
If you
mean,
go by
if
box
we're
office,
talking
but-
box office, look at John Carpenter's The Thing. That flopped badly, but that's one of the
Yeah, but I
best
mean,
ones.
we're talking about a random segment of people that are
Okay.
stupid people. So I think they're going to say Terminator, and I'm just saying that because I think they're stupid.
I can see that.
Rambo-
I actually could
Rambo
see that
made-
though.
Rambo made an excellent point. There's a statue of Rocky, a fictional character in Philadelphia. As huge as the Terminator was, as enormous an event movie as Terminator 2 it was, there's no statues of the Terminator anywhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So-
Triple H coming out dressed as one in WrestleMania, whatever the fuck that was.
We had a
Stupid thing.
we did get a 3D show at Universal Studios. So
I was just gonna say, when I think about Terminator, I think of like Universal Studios. Yeah,
I
but
love that show.
that's a whole different thing.
I mean, Philadelphia like boos their own sports team. So
hey,
Philadelphia is our
and
worst
I-
fans.
and I
will
just
say
wanna
that. Oh my
say-
god, they boo Santa Claus. For
I
God's
just want to say that Detroit has a statue of RoboCop. So just
I'm the lead of the Schwarzenegger team.
I didn't
but-
know there were any standing statues in Detroit.
I don't know anything was still standing in Detroit. Anyway, I'm gonna have to agree with Cole on this one, where Terminator and Rambo cancel each other out. There's a lack of franchises on Schwarzenegger's part, so it's not really any fault of his that Stallone takes this category. It's just a category, Stallone just has more films in this category, and the Rocky films are great. I mean, they're awesome films. I love the character. Same with Rambo. And if you want to look at it this way, Terminator 3 and Terminator Genesis were far worse films than Rambo and Rocky Balboa.
Right.
So even the going back to the extra sequels are better from the Stallone films. So for that reason, I would have to give 1 point Stallone on this one.
And I'd say the main reason for those successes is because of how Stallone stayed in control of the destinies of his own franchises and characters. I mean, those movies are good because of the way Stallone wrote them. Whereas, I guess, it's not like Schwarzenegger gave any bad performances in those later Terminators. He was still a Terminator. But,
yeah, he's actually really good in Terminator Genesis. It's not like I watched that movie and I think, man, Stallone sucked in Terminator Genesis. It's more like, no, this story is garbage and I don't know what's happening. But he's as imposing and interesting as ever as the Terminator,
I liked him in T3 as well.
Now,
even though that film has a lot of problems, I think he's consistently excellent in the movies. But
while we like a lot of these movies in the 80s and stuff, I do think that Stallone now than he ever was. If you look at Rocky Balboa and John Rambo, the fourth in the series, I mean, he could not have made films of that quality back then because he's much more analytical about who he is, where he is in his life, and he's apologized for a lot of the stuff he did in the 90s because he's embarrassed that his ego allowed him to make some of that stuff. Whereas now you see almost like, even though it's an action film, he's much more of a serious filmmaker now.
Yeah.
And also, those are the first time he directed, not Rocky, but at least Rambo he directed.
Yeah.
I mean, going on point what you were saying, he should direct more, I guess is what I'm getting at, because it seems like when he's directing, a lot of his movies are better.
Well, he's a good writer. Like, he's got good, when he has something to say.
He won an Oscar.
Like, the reason, exactly, and the reason I think Rocky Balboa is such a good movie, I very much like that movie, is like that movie is full of, it's not like, oh, let's just make another Rocky sequel, which frankly I think, and again, no fault of Schwarzenegger's, but like I think that was essentially like, oh, well, we haven't made a Terminator film in a while, so let's ratchet one of those out. Like Stallone had like a very legitimate point he was making, which was almost like a real life, like meta response to his actual life, where he's like, I'm not done yet. Like there's more to do. Just because I'm old doesn't mean like this is the end for me. Like, don't count me out. And so that movie just is.
Yeah.
It just that movie resonates with that for me.
And I'll give him another point, another positive point. It was his expendable films, even though I think Arnold really helped, define the action film of the '80s. I think he's the guy. Duke Nukem. He's the guy when people think about over the top action films, they think of Arnold.
Right.
But it was Stallone that gave all these old guys new life when he made the Expendables films. There's a lot of actors that have been forgotten about, that have been working in direct-to-video crap for years that couldn't get a break. And he creates the Expendables, and he makes them relevant again. And he brought Arnold basically out of retirement with those films and gave him a leg up back into the film world.
I thought the Expendables were direct-to-video crap.
Well, anyone who's
I was gonna say, even if you don't like the movies, at least people like, hey, that guy's alive.
It's good to see. They're like old friends, and it's good to see him again.
Yeah, and
What movies?
still alive.
Let me look back on their movies in the past. I haven't seen them in 10 years or something.
Well,
DVDs.
Let me ask you guys this: what's a bigger accomplishment, Stallone winning an Oscar for writing Rocky, or Arnold Schwarzenegger winning California?
I think most people say winning.
I think that's a
lose-lose.
Yeah.
I totally expected him to win California, didn't I?
Yeah, I didn't even think it was it was
Anybody
a question.
worried about that? I mean, it makes sense. California is the world of show business. He's at the top of that, so.
But I
That
think
should
a lot
go
of people,
against him, man.
I think a lot of
Yeah,
people
but-
would wish he didn't win. California.
But here's the thing, though. Yes, him winning the governorship definitely stopped us from getting
Goes against
Schwarzenegger
the
movies for several years. But I mean, it is kind of an accomplishment to win the state of California as a Republican. And I just want to say
Well,
this.
nowadays it is.
No, it's been for a long time. It's been a Democratic state for a long, long time.
I mean, back in the 80s, or sorry, the 70s rather, Reagan, like that was where he came from.
Well, that was when The Exorcist.
That was the
No,
70s.
man, relax. Yeah,
That was the 70s.
but the fact
It's been all downhill since then.
that it's not the governorship that surprised me. It's the fact that for whatever it was, 6-8 years or whatever it was, he managed to, from his wife, the media, everything, completely hide that child with the maid.
That was living in the house with him,
Yeah.
growing up with his kids.
That's power.
Fuck, that's talent.
Yeah.
I guess
Stone cold talent.
Listen,
I don't know how admirable.
Stallone may have won the Oscar for writing, but Schwarzenegger gets it for the performance.
And you know how she found out? He was forced to tell her in couples therapy. He kept that shit hidden. Wasn't going to say a fucking word. Yeah, there's some acting talent
I
for you.
mean,
Dedication.
in seriousness, I would give it to the Oscar because the way Stallone talks, which is a defect from birth, the way he looks, the fact that later on he would be quote an action guy. Oscars, even though Rocky's more of a drama, they don't really look at too many guys like that. It seems like maybe that's the wrong way to put it, but it just for what he's become now, it seems even more deservedly, but unexpected that he would get that honor because just so many people would say he's just dumb. How many times he gets nominated for the Razzies, which are the worst performances. The Razzie says he's the worst actor of the decade.
Nah.
But yeah, he can overcome that. I think that's what's more is that he's overcoming that and shows, hey, look where I am. I could win an Oscar despite this disability on my cheek, despite I would only be put into villain roles if I didn't write myself into this. Look what I accomplished. And not only that, I won an Oscar.
Well, keep in mind, too, that he was dead broke when he wrote Rocky.
Yeah, he's
offered
ready to sell his dog.
Yeah, they offered him a ton of money to just give them the script and go away. He said, no, I want to play this role. So they gave him no money. But he had the integrity to say, no, I want to do this. I want to be this. He could have took the money and run. You know what I mean?
That's kind of something they both have in common. They basically are self-made men. They came from nothing and earned everything they got. And there's another thing that's about these two guys. I think these two guys probably have the most often imitated vocal inflections of any two actors in the 80s. They both have basically speech impediments. You go, get to the chopper, and then you go, because these two guys are both even on that plane, I think. That doesn't take away from Stallone. I think gives him more personality.
Let me mark best speech impediment off the list.
Hey, let me throw this out. With Rocky, there's another 6 degrees of separation here, and that is who was a PA or working behind the scenes on Rocky, Lloyd Kaufman, who then learned from Rocky how to build trauma into making movies. So we can thank Rocky for creating trauma.
I don't think I'll do that.
No, me either.
I was better off not knowing. but I mean,
I would disregard that because that would hurt our case for Stallone.
Cole's ready to switch sides now.
I am not a fan of trauma.
But I mean, the whole reason we're doing this is because they both have so many parallels and similarities and stuff, and they both become icons. And as Mike said, they both are sort of came from humble beginnings and self-made men and stuff like that. But the big separation between them is, I think, one just seems much more human and relatable, whereas Schwarzenegger's always been superhuman and larger than life. He was like this perfect specimen. He was Mr. Universe several times before he started getting known in acting. Whereas with Stallone, he was just sort of a bum with an idea that had been in like some pornographic films and stuff, just trying to get by. They both did some crazy stuff in the 70s. We know that. That's another parallel. But I mean, the difference is, you look at Arnold and you think winner, whereas I think it's just so believable that Stallone played Rocky because he sort of was that underdog himself. And I think there's no contest between who seems the more human, who seems the more relatable.
Well, now they're both the Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau of action movies, so they're in everything together.
And I know not a lot of people like Stallone's output after Expendables, like he did Last Stand, Sabotage, and
Bullet to the Head.
That was
Oh, you know,
I'm talking
Arnold?
about
The Last Stand was
Schwarzenegger.
Schwarzenegger.
Schwarzenegger. He did Escape Plan.
With
The Last Stand, and I like those films. I like those the films later. I mean, I liked the Sixth Day. I liked
and he's gonna be in the remake of the Toxic Avenger as well.
And by the way, according to Stallone himself, in his opinion, Stop or My Mom Will Shoot is the worst movie he made.
He is self-aware.
That leads me into our next criteria. Let's talk about we've talked about some of their biggest movies. Let's talk about their worst movies.
Ooh.
And I'm going to start with let's start with the Schwarzenegger side. Mike, take it.
Oh man. Well, I was never really a fan of some of his comedy films. Twins,
Junior.
Junior. Maybe that would be the low point. I did enjoy Kindergarten Cop and I did enjoy Jingle All the Way, but maybe Junior. That's got to be the low for me. That would be his Stop or My Mom Will Shoot, right there.
That might get supplanted by Triplets when that comes out.
I'm gonna go with probably an unpopular one, but I have a reason for it, and that's like Collateral Damage or something like that, because that was the moment when but the reason why I bring it up is that was the moment when Schwarzenegger movies stopped being event films. People think it was after 9/11, no one cared. So
they had to change the whole beginning of that movie because of 9/11.
Yeah, that movie was delayed and basically destroyed because of 9/11.
And I took that
God, ruins everything. God.
I agree that it was the end of him making anything kind of half decent.
He became a governor not too long after. I think that was the last film he made before he went into politics.
I really like that movie.
Yeah, I do too.
I don't hate it.
The one I haven't seen is the what is that? What is that one where he's like going after the devil with Peter
End of Days.
Yeah, I've never seen it. I've never seen it.
The hell out of End of
That's a
Days.
good one.
Man,
It's silly.
Yeah, that one's actually not bad.
It's not like he's never gotten silly before.
That's one of my more favorite
I haven't
ones.
seen that one, and I haven't seen The Sixth Day. Both of those. I never
yeah, that's good.
End of
Both are
Days
good.
is like the last Arnold movie I saw in theaters, I think.
I thought End of Days was an event movie. I mean, it was definitely as the budget. I mean,
How about Eraser? I like that one too.
You have been erased.
I like that one.
He definitely had a better 90s output than Stallone, I'll give you that.
Oh, without a doubt, yeah.
I disagree.
What would you guys?
I
What
disagree.
would the Arnold side say? What is the absolute low point in Arnold's career? What's his worst movie?
I'm going with Junior when he started kind of stepping outside of what we wanted to see, and then of course after he became governor. Since then, I enjoy his film output, but I can't argue that they're great films or that they're definitely not equal to Rocky Balboa or Rambo. So I would have to, I would give him the 90s, but the 2000s I would give to Stallone, and I'd give the late 70s, early 80s to Stallone, but I would give like from 84
To now.
to
90.
from 84 to like 2000.
91.
I would give that to Stallone. I mean, to Schwarzenegger. I don't know. You should put me on the Stallone side. I keep saying him.
What do you think?
Schwarzenegger.
What do you think, Stingray? You look like you've got something to say.
I don't know, man. I think I may go with Hercules in New York or something like that. because I mean I
That's
think
not even him talking.
Junior's watchable. I think.
Yeah.
I mean, he's being overdubbed in that one.
Yeah.
I didn't count that because that was the villain though. With Kurt Douglas, he did that. I remember seeing that movie. That was kind of funny. But
where do we stand on Raw Deal?
I don't know that one.
That's a movie he
It's
made
not
in the
bad.
mid '80s.
It's been a long time since
That
I've
steam
seen
room's worth it, man. That steam room scene, that's worth the price of admission right there.
so I guess we're going Hercules in New York versus Stallone's porn film, and then we'll go the villain versus Lords of Flatbush, which I enjoyed. Lords of
Well,
Flatbush.
that was a totally underrated movie.
Stallone's
I gave
porn
Stallone
film
the
is better
70s.
than Hercules in New York, so we
Well,
went-
I gave Stallone the 70s.
Well, Stallone maintains the movie that destroyed his career was Copland because everyone thought he was a fat, out of shape actor and he couldn't
Even
get
though
any
that's
action
a good
work after.
movie. I mean,
I thought
it's
Copland
how
was
dumb
his
you
attempt
are.
to come back.
I mean,
No,
I
it
love
was-
Copland.
It
I
was.
thought it was his. I'm serious and I can really pay
Yeah.
attention to me movie.
Yeah,
And
no,
you
and
know?
that's
I
the way
get
people
both.
respond to it. But
I'm
he
method.
couldn't get work for almost 10 years. His movies went straight to video for a
Yeah, the movie didn't do well when it came out, and critics
Yeah.
kind of took a dump on it.
I liked
So maybe-
Cuphead.
I think that's what he means by it.
I think that's easily one of his most underrated. It was in a period when he was doing a lot of bad stuff. You know, that movie's
That-
kind of
that was-
bookended
I
and
mean, he
by some bad things.
really
And that's what I
committed to that
meant. Is
role,
like
man.
my understanding was he did that movie in an attempt to kind of be relevant again. Like it was his big. He was kind of swinging for the fences with that film.
but it backfired on him.
Yeah.
And he kind of distanced
bad.
himself because from Rocky 3 on, he was ripped. You know, everybody expected that, so he covered that up with fat and tried to hide. I think he tried to kind of hide that aspect of him and blend in.
Yeah.
I liked it.
I
I
don't know
thought,
if
he,
it
I thought he
worked
was successful.
I just thought it was
It's a great
like we
movie.
said, being method, being dedicated to the character. This is like
Yeah.
I just see it as dedication.
So
Let's talk. Let's turn the floor over to the Stallone side. What is Stallone's worst movie in your opinion?
Oh man,
My
Like-
opinion, honestly, is Spy Kids 3D.
Oh yeah, I
I don't
forgot
think
about
that's-
that one. Okay.
I didn't even
For a
know.
reason, when he's like 10 different personalities and he's being so over the top, and this
Yeah.
such a shitty movie anyway. So just. But if you're talking about are you talking about just he's in, or one that he stars in?
yeah.
Oh,
I think
the
it's
one
got to
that
be like he stars
That
in
he
it.
stars in.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that he
Oh
stars in.
well, what is it?
you know what?
Assassin's is awfully terrible.
I fucking hate Driven. I hate Driven. It's the one he did with Rennie Harlan, the racing movie where he's. Well, no, he doesn't really star in that either. That's one of the things that pissed me off. So
I feel like he's got a bunch that really scrape. Like Get Carter.
I like
Remember
Driven.
Get Carter?
Carter,
Yeah.
Assassins,
I thought
Avenging
Get Carter was
Angelo.
underrated. I love
With
Get Carter.
Assassins?
Assassins.
Antonio
That's
Banderas?
yeah. That's the other one.
Is it
Uh,
Avenging Angelo one right around that period of time? They remade something.
What
Yeah,
about
that's 2002.
Rhinestone?
Oh, it was
Don't
the 80s.
mention Rhinestone.
Oh, there you go. That's a good one.
X versus Sever.
Rambo will
Am
kill
I
you
thinking
for
of
that one.
Antonio Banderas again for that? Who was in X versus Sever or whatever it
Yeah,
was called?
Antonio
Lucy
Banderas.
Liu and Antonio Banderas.
That's why.
Yeah.
Lucy Liu.
I confused that movie with Assassins because of the thing about Banderas being in both of them. But yeah, okay. So he wasn't in that terrible movie, but thank God.
After the brilliance of Rocky 4, Rocky 5 came out with a thud.
See, I personally defend Rocky 5
Me
because
too.
I think Rocky 5 is a more authentic Rocky movie than Rocky 4. And I love Rocky 4. Let me get that out there. I like Rocky 4 a great deal, but like as far as like Rockies 1 through 3, if you compare them to Rocky 4 seems like it's like in a different universe or something. And Rocky 5 kind of like comes back to reality.
I liked
I mean,
it. They established his we saw how hard the Russian could punch. They established his brain damage.
Yeah.
They established that his only skill was fighting. And
Yeah.
when that was taken away from him, and he had bad handlers spend all his money, he had no way to get his money back. So he would go back to what he knew, which was the neighborhood he came from.
Right.
But he would still
I've
have
always-
the love for boxing. But instead of taking his son under his wing, he got distracted by this other guy. I liked the film.
Man, that's a good
Yeah.
one. I actually sat through that. I see you.
I remember that.
Nastiness that I found
I
on
remember
Netflix a few years ago. But yeah, I've always called Rocky 5 the worst Rocky, and that's what I think. But I still don't even think it's that bad because I don't think there's really any bad Rockies. I think it's the worst Rocky, the weakest Rocky, but I don't think it's
Oh, that-
bad.
I agree
that's the
with
best
that.
montage out of any Rocky movie.
Oh, with
It
the
was-
rap song?
It was the least
Yeah,
enjoyable, but I like
stuff
that
was-
the little angel on the
Well-
shoulder and the drama with the son, and
Yeah.
of course
But-
I was a
but
fan
Rocky-
of Morrison. I thought Morrison was a great boxer.
But
I was a
Rocky
fan.
Rocky Balboa is the movie that he wanted Rocky 5 to be, and he couldn't make it.
That
Then.
was a much better film.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Who's got? Let's do this. Who's got the best worst movie?
Oh.
Oh,
The
Demolition Man.
Tango and Cash.
I love that movie.
Well, okay. Well, how are we defining that then? Because it's
The
like I
best-
like Tango and
like-
Cash too, but it's really cheesy and kind of
Yeah,
dumb.
exactly.
So like
exactly.
I mean, how are we defining this best
Worst movie. Okay.
Cheesy.
Oh man.
Because
Come
you want
on,
to talk about like quips and one-liners.
The running- the
like,
running
we
man.
only talk in quips and one-liners in Tango and Cash.
we could do
Yeah.
it like who has like of all these bad movies they've done, which one is the absolute worst, and then which one is like our best worst, like guilty pleasure kind of movie.
It's hard on both sides. It's hard.
For the
man.
short
Yeah,
side,
they're both
Everything.
full of those. They're
I'm
Yeah,
both-
going
but
Jingle
to
All
be-
the Way.
to be
Jingle All
honest,
the Way is his best worst movie.
I'm
Put
not.
the cookie down.
I honestly, I'm not guilty of any of that. I sincerely like ICU. I sincerely like Jingle All the Way. But ICU, I like it because I think it's one of Stallone's more underrated performances.
I wanted to like ICU because I like the setup a lot, but it just
I think his performance was really good. I've never seen Stallone play that kind of character before. Like Jingle All the Way, I thought was fun, so it's hard for me to pick. For me, I guess I like either you really hate a movie or really like a movie. Like
yeah, I don't know.
I
My
thought you were
favorite,
gonna
my
go
favorite
Bronson.
bad Stallone might be like Judge Dredd. I
Oh,
Yeah.
really like how bad
There you go.
Judge Dredd is, and it is one of the most
I
quotable
forgot
things.
about Judge Dredd.
You betrayed the law. The law can't apologize. Emotions. There ought to be a law against them. I am the law. I mean, there's just so much going on there. Wait. Let me guess. The sentence is life? Shoots him. Death. Court's adjourned. Oh, man. That brings up an interesting question. Who did a worse job of like portraying a famous comic book character? I would say that his
Ty.
Judge Dredd is not as bad as Arnold's
Chill.
Mr. Freeze.
I gotta go with the tie on that one. 'Cause they're both equally ridiculous. I mean, Judge Dredd never
cringe
takes off his
more.
hat. And here's Stallone every 5 seconds taking off his helmet. Hi, did you know it was Stallone in this role? You know. Then he had Rob Schneider.
come on.
So yeah, I would equal. I would
Mr.
say
Freeze
that's a tie.
is so cringeworthy, man. I don't know. I don't think that's a tie at all.
I don't think it's a tie because I mean, as much as Judge Dredd is a cool character, he's actually, the whole point of him is like what we saw in the good Dredd movie. He doesn't have that much personality. Is the whole sort of point. So even though they gave him a little bit more and had him his mask off all the time and stuff, like it's still not too far off. Whereas the Mr. Freeze is just completely out of whack with any interpretation. I mean any interpretation.
But that was Joel Schumacher, and
Yeah. I know, but hey, we're just saying.
I still
who's
think
the better
Stallone
comic
was-
book performance.
was just as far away from Urban's performance as what are we comparing to Mr. Freeze? I mean, we're talking Vincent Price wasn't he? Oh, he was Egghead. Who played Mr. Freeze in the? How many good
It was
portrayals
supposed to
of
be
Mr.
Clint
Freeze
Eastwood.
has there been?
Well, I think it's more about like because I find myself comparing him to because the movie even uses the Mr. Freeze origin that was kind of reshaped for the cartoon series, and that's
the
like
animated series is what changed it. Mr. Freeze
Yeah.
never had that much of a good backstory or anything like that. The animated series gave him one, and they've always followed it ever since.
Well, that movie
Yeah.
does have bad nipples, so
I thought Schwarzenegger did pretty good as Mr. Freeze. His character had an arc. We found out what his goal was. We found out why he was sad. He ended up helping Batman at the end and saving his wife. I don't know.
I don't
thought
have any
that was-
problem with that. I'm just talking about the way he actually looked and talked and everything.
I'm glad
Frankly,
you
George
defend
Clooney is
that
probably the worst at portraying their comic book
I mean,
character.
Oh, yeah.
I get it. We can blame Schumacher for most of it, for sure, but I'm telling you, I bet you Arnold loved the idea of Mr. Freeze spouting shitty one-liners. It was
He loves it.
probably was his idea. Everybody
Let me ask Stingray. Let me ask Stingray. You are the deciding voice here, Stingray. Which is worse, Mr. Freeze or Dredd? You're the deciding voice.
go for it, man.
Mr. Freeze or Dredd?
Yeah, which one's worse?
Stallone's
No, Mr.
Dread
Freeze.
versus Schwarzenegger's Freeze.
Mr. Freeze.
Exactly. Okay.
There you go.
So we win.
And Stingray is on the Arnold side. So,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, man. I hate that movie.
I agree. Okay, I agree with you.
Well, let's
I
talk
like
about-
Judge Dredd a lot.
But yeah, Judge Dredd's definitely my sort of favorite bad Stallone. I get a lot of enjoyment out of it.
Guilty pleasure.
I will give you overall that the Dredd movie is better than Batman and Robin. I'm not comparing the two movies. I'm comparing the two characters. And
Yeah.
as far as the way they are from the base, I would give a tie. I just called it even.
I want to see the nipples through their suit. No, Joel, we can't do that. Where you can see them.
Batman has a magnificent butt. We need to see his butt.
It's the only thing that
Batman
makes
and
sense,
Robin.
damn it.
Batman and Robin has like a great Blu-ray, set, just great special features. The Judge Dredd movie isn't even in 16:9 with no special features on Blu-ray. So
Well, that's unfortunate.
No, but I agree it's the better film. I just think it's it's even Steven on the character portrayals.
Yeah. Okay.
That's like comparing two piles of shit, though. Really, I mean,
Let's talk about.
Do we care which one stinks more? They both stink.
yeah, but at least one admits it.
Let's talk about versatility. Which actor had the most versatility? And what I'm wanting to kind of focus on is their crossover appeal into other genres, like for instance, comedy. Or we made a good we made a good point earlier. Stallone came from drama into action.
Yeah.
So let's just kind of think of Stallone though as an action star. How was their versatility into other genres? Comedy, for instance, drama, so on. Let me start with the Stallone side.
Well, I mean, I think most people would. I mean, I can't even disagree with it that Stallone didn't do well with comedy. Now, I'm a big Stallone guy. Yes, I can watch Rhinestone, even though it's like, what? I can watch Oscar and actually have fun as a farce that was supposed to be by John Landis. I can watch Stop My Mom Will Shoot, other than the stupid diaper scene. But at the same time, I can't sit here because I'd be lying. Twins, Kindergarten Cop, they were more successful. They did have more of a crossover. I would say I enjoy those films more. I even enjoy Jingle All the Way more. So if we're talking comedy aspect, I would give it to Schwarzenegger, to be fair. I like to stick up for Stallone, but I can watch some of those comedies, but I do think Arnold won in that way. If you're talking about like genres, Arnold did go into horror. Stallone didn't really go into that genre, sadly. The closest was ICU, which I can understand why people don't like, because to me, my problem with that is the editing is very bad. I do like it for the performances and such, but like Predator, yeah, much better movie. End of Days, yes, I would put that above, even though that was a flop. Sci-fi, Arnold had more sci-fi, although I really love Demolition Man. So it's hard talking about in that crossover of genre specifically but at the same time with Stallone, I enjoyed his action stuff. I don't know, I guess just his characters in that aspect, they seem more to them. I don't know if that's part of the whole thing where either they were more tortured or they have more of a past or they have more history, whether it be in Cliffhanger
Stallone wasn't funny himself.
I think he is, and I think that's what's sad, because I agree, yeah, Arnold's comedies are way better than his, but I've always found Stallone actually seems to, if in interviews and stuff, comes across as being quite intelligent and having sort of a wry sense of humor, and it feels terrible to me that he's never made that translate well into a movie to be funny, because I think he's actually the funnier person than Arnold, but he's not the funnier actor, and I don't know if that's just because of scripts or what.
What was that,
Jeff? Have you guys seen Grudge Match?
No,
I saw some of it.
I need to.
Is he not funny in that one?
It's okay, I guess. It's just him and De Niro staring each other down, going the whole
just
time, making little quips at each other back and forth. I mean, that's really the entire movie, just them sort of making jokes at each other. And
you want to see Rocky versus Raging Bull, but I heard you don't get that.
It wasn't for me. It wasn't for me.
It's not good.
The one step up that Stallone has over Schwarzenegger. Cartoons to serial, and Schwarzenegger never had that. His characters have never crossed over into the kid world that way.
Okay.
I think that Stallone would sometimes, like, Demolition Man is an action movie for sure, but it has a lot of comedy in it. And I think that movie is very good, but the comedy isn't generally driven strictly by Stallone. Like Sandra Bullock that does funny stuff, Dennis Leary does funny stuff. The situation's funny, and I think that Stallone navigates it really well. Like he doesn't drag the comedy
sort of the
down.
straight
He adds
man.
to
That's
it.
probably his best comedic performance if I had to pick one.
Agreed.
Right. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Like his lines are pretty good and they fit in and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
He did the fish out of water thing pretty good.
Yeah.
Like as he's sort of the eyes of the audience, and kind of his reaction. Like, he's almost sort of a proto Jim Halpert from The Office. It's like everything he encounters, he's like confused by it, and he's giving like weird looks at everybody.
And also, if we're talking character-wise, like Rocky Balboa and John Rambo are two very different characters' performances. And then if you compare this, like Freddy from Copland, that's another very different performance. And then if you look at even the film like Locked Up or something, like that's still not exactly the same. So I think, like again, I know a lot of people don't like it, but ICU, he plays a very different character. I mean, a suicidal guy who slits his own wrists, and very dark character. I mean, he's willing. More than willing. Only Arnold was doing that when he went to End of Days.
Well,
Which didn't do well.
Let me pose this question to the Arnold side, because it sounds like we're saying Arnold was the better comedic actor, and Sylvester Stallone was the better dramatic actor. Are there any roles from the Arnold filmography that you guys can say he showed a lot of dramatic range in?
What's the one where he had like a zombie daughter?
Yeah, was that Abigail?
Maggie.
Okay.
I still haven't seen it. I always think
I haven't seen that either, but that did look like he had potential. He had some kind of an emotional.
It's there for sure.
Performance.
Yeah.
Have you seen Maggie? Stingray?
Uh huh.
Tell
Yeah,
us about
it was. I mean, it was good. You know, I mean, Arnold was good in it. Not anything that is really going to blow the doors off or anything. It's basically what it sounds like.
But it's a strong dramatic performance from him.
Absolutely.
Oh, cool. Okay. Can you guys think of any other dramatic turns for Schwarzenegger?
I've already mentioned like Terminator 2. I think that one counts.
Okay.
I even think in Genesis he had a little bit of a couple emotional moments when he was thinking back to the past of the way things because he basically in this new timeline he raised Sarah Connor and almost was like a father figure to her, and as a machine without emotions he like worried about her. Yeah, so I thought
he got to be like an evolved version of the T-800, like a T-800 that lived for 25 years. We'd never seen one like that, and he actually had more of a pathos in that movie.
I get all that, but it didn't work for me. I thought they were crossing the line into like schlocky, schmaltzy stuff.
I didn't say it worked. I just said the performance was good.
Well, let's go back. Let's go back to Commando for a second. Here's a movie that is basically what is now Taken, in the 1980s. His daughter's got kidnapped. He's got to go after her. But that's what that movie could have been. And I know that movie is what it is. But people never talk about the importance of that whole opening with Alyssa Milano. And the ice cream, her sticking the ice cream in his face, and them going for hikes, and he's just picking her up with one arm. They're establishing the fact that this guy is a loving father. He's got this comedy. He's funny. He's sweet. In that one 5 minutes, they make him such a family man. Then they have him talking about Boy George with her and stuff like that. So when the violence kicks in, it's just like you seem like this person, and it's a very smart move because it brought in not just the action guy, it brought in women too, and that was the big thing. Schwarzenegger brought in women fans. Stallone, not so much.
I don't agree with that.
I don't agree with that either. No. And I also feel like, most people don't remember the opening because once it gets into the action, all that's forgotten completely. Yeah. I feel like his character just becomes that, one-man army with the quips.
Okay,
and we forget everything
Rocky's a love story.
Three-dimensional about it.
Who's sexier? Stingray, you got the floor.
Oh, here we go. Stallone.
Yeah, he serenades Adrian in Rocky 3. Remember he's singing to her in bed?
Oh, no, man.
Who's got?
He looks better in the half shirt.
Women do not go see Stallone films.
Just watch
frolics in the ocean better.
Yeah, he's frolic in the ocean with Apollo Creed.
Who's
in
got the better
to
abs?
see True
Cole, you
Lies.
got the floor.
We've taken a disturbing turn. I wanted to go back.
Okay, we're looking at this from all angles.
So Stallone proved with Rocky he had acting chops. He had a flair for dramatic acting, and I do think he is the better actor of the two. Now, Schwarzenegger didn't have a problem with it, but with Conan, he got typecast. It was his muscles they were hiring to be in the film. It wasn't his ability to say the words.
Well, sure.
He went with it.
Too,
You know, he just went with it. He had fun with it. That was his career. He didn't care. He didn't want to be Shakespeare. You know, he said, you know how many Shakespearean actors come from Austria? You don't hear of them because there aren't any. You know, that's his own line.
Who looked better oiled up?
Arnold.
Who do you think you could take in a fight?
Universe.
Neither.
In their prime.
Neither.
Neither.
Now, both of them.
But as far as genres, I think Stallone hasn't been in as many genres as Schwarzenegger. I think Schwarzenegger's comedy is better. His sci-fi is better. He's done horror. But Stallone has more range and he's better at the dramatic, so he definitely owns that part of it.
I don't know how different the sci-fi stuff is anyway. It's just another twist on the action films, if we're being honest. Neither of them were in like some sort of like deeply cerebral sci-fi movie. You know, they weren't in, you know, one of those kinds of movie. They were just in sort of an action movie with a sci-fi setting. So let's be honest here. I don't know how much that matters that, you know, Arnold had some better sci-fi roles. Because did he really have to do anything that different for them than his action roles? It's just sci-fi action.
Yeah, but he hooked up with some great directors. That was the point.
It's not like he's doing the Andromeda strain or something.
No, he was a cyborg coming back from the future to kill people in the past.
Well,
That's pretty sciencey right there.
We're talking about dramatic work. I mean, as much as dramatic work as can be. I mean, Total Recall had some acting from Arnold.
Yeah, the eyes bulging.
I would never debate who's the better actor. I would never debate that. But entertaining films, I do think Arnold may have a few more bombastic popcorn entertainment style films.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I love both the guys, man. Neither one of them are very good actors. Come on. I mean,
well, you know, but
Hey,
Arnold makes Stallone look good.
I'll disagree with that. I think they're pretty good.
Stallone's been nominated for
I think
Oscars. He
Arnold's
won.
actually
He
pretty good in End of Days.
won the writing, and he's nominated for Creed.
I think
That's true. In
Arnold's
fact,
good in
I
End
wish
of
he'd
Days.
won
He's
last year. That
"You
would have been great."
Fuck with me, you're a fucking choir boy compared to me. I mean, you're a fucking choir boy. I mean, I thought Arnold sold in End of Days for what he was supposed to do for a silly idea against the devil. Who can sell that idea? I think he did it fine.
Nobody could be a better Arnold than Arnold, that's for sure. He is one of a kind.
You know,
we've had other Italian actors, Robert De Niro. Does Stallone does he equal Robert De Niro? No, but Schwarzenegger makes him look better than he is. So that's what I'm just saying, that between the two, I think Stallone has a better grasp on the dramatic.
And then there was that moment in the rundown, right, where he like gave like a handshake or something to The Rock to kind of pass the torch.
Oh yeah, that's true. You know, there's something we haven't really talked about. It's a broader topic than just these two, but when you think about like the action movies for Schwarzenegger and Stallone, 80s, 90s, whatever, by the end of their movies, they've usually been like beat to hell, shot, like kind of barely make it to the end, and then, you know, still kill the bad guy in really fantastic fashion. But like, it's very different. I feel like in action movies now, like a Jason Statham movie or whatever, like I feel like by the end of the movie, he's barely ever hurt. Like, he doesn't really look fundamentally different, whereas
So he's like
Commando's a great example. Like, in Commando, you know, Schwarzenegger's like cut to hell. He's all beat up. Like, I feel like we don't – and I don't know why this change has occurred, but I've always appreciated that about both Stallone and Schwarzenegger's action movies, where even though they were these powerful, like, badass characters, they still got the hell beat out of them. And it was like that was kind of the enduring thing, is they just took it and kind of kept going.
But about the sci-fi, you know, Predator, that doesn't get much more sci-fi than that, battling an alien warrior.
Well, and that's a good example, too.
Battle, though. I'm just saying, how different is it really from another action movie? He's fighting a monster instead of...
It's not Soylent Green, but it's sci-fi.
Yeah,
it's a Schwarzenegger style.
I'm simply saying it's not that much of a reach. It doesn't make his performance all that different.
And considering Stallone's only done how many sci-fi films? I think just by numbers, Schwarzenegger hasn't beat.
Death Race 2000.
I like I said,
Running Man.
Demolition Man.
simply it
Running
hasn't
Man,
for that, but I'm just saying I don't think it should count for very much.
Going to Mars.
Predator's just a great example of just my point, though. It's like Schwarzenegger, like, who can't Schwarzenegger beat up?
That's what's great about Predator. Finally,
yeah, it's like a
somebody-
7-foot tall monster.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
that-
Alien and
that's what's
Aliens
really
were
cool about
basically creature features, but they were also sci-fi.
Well, have
Never said
we?
they weren't.
One of the criteria I wanted to discuss was pop culture impact, but I think we've maybe kind of already discussed that because they both have had an enormous pop culture impact. Like I think Mike said, both of their voices, both of the way that their impediments, let's say, have been mimicked and mocked for decades. So I mean, I think we pretty much covered that base. They both had an enormous pop culture impact.
Adrian and I'll Be Back. I mean, everybody knows. If you scream Adrian, everybody knows what you're talking about.
Exactly. Let's talk about just the overall legacy of each actor. I want to start with the Schwarzenegger side. What is Arnold Schwarzenegger's legacy in action films and just in movies in general?
You can do anything you set your mind to. Just do it and have fun with it. Just go with it. Be who you are. Be true to what you are. Be true to, what it is people like about you. Don't be afraid to take a chance. Failure is what you learn from. He regrets some decisions, like turning down Predator 2. He didn't understand how his character would work with a predator in the city. He thought it was a bad idea. In hindsight, maybe he would have done it. But also, he got burned by the Conan sequel, so he wasn't really hip to say yes to that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I think their legacies, it depends on how you want to look at it. From the bombast rock concert, let's have fun, I think Schwarzenegger was the representative of the action film in the 80s. Stallone definitely had his own influence. I don't know, that's a tough question. You could go either way. Rambo, I mean, like brought up, everybody knows who Rambo is. We want all Rambo on that person. Oh man, that guy's a Terminator. I mean, God, it's almost a tie in a way. I can't pick one. I would have to say that their cultural impact would be equal.
Stingray, Cameron, do you guys have anything to add?
Well, it is hard to cultural impact. I mean, the thing is though, is that Stallone went away for maybe a good 10, 12 years, and then Schwarzenegger disappeared for a number of years as well when he did the politics and stuff like that. So, I mean, they've all gone away and come back. I would say in terms of resurgence, Stallone is doing much better than Schwarzenegger.
Oh, he's definitely had the better comeback, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Really?
Yeah.
I think so.
Rambo, Rocky Balboa. Even,
I can't think of anything really that good that what has Schwarzenegger done that's been so great in this decade?
Well,
Schwarzenegger's trending on Twitter right now. So.
He had Schwarzenegger had open heart surgery in 97, 98?
Mm-hmm.
And he had a kind of a health scare, and he's been injured many times, and he went into politics and kind of got soft, But you could use those excuses if you want to, but I think Stallone definitely had the better resurgence, and he's actually made Schwarzenegger relevant again. So,
well, I mean, resurgence. I mean, what are we talking about? Expendables, Rocky Balboa, whatever the new.
I would
Michael
say Creed
Jordan
counts.
movie.
Well, just the fact that you look at
Bullet to the head. I like that movie.
He's going to be in Guardians of the Galaxy 2. So,
if you look at Stallone,
Is he playing the tree?
if you look at Stallone, you got to.
yeah, right. They pay $1
you got to-
million to what's his name for that?
I'm good.
All right, sorry, we're talking over Rambo up here.
Go ahead, Rambo.
Sorry, man.
No, it's so fine. No, I'm just talking with I think what people are saying resurgence. Like if you compare the two, Stallone being able to write, direct, star in two films that reestablished characters in a successful manner, being able to create a new franchise, which he directed, wrote, and starred in the first one, and then he was the main star of the sequels. Whether people liked or disliked, it still became a franchise that he was the star. And then also be able to do more movies, and now he's with a big role in a Marvel movie and Guardians of the Galaxy. But then Arnold, I really do think the politics hurt him because there are people who did not like what he did. There are people who didn't like that he went away for so long. I do like The Last Stand, but when it came out, it bombed very harshly. Maddie, really, not many people saw or even heard of. The what was it? The Sabotage flopped badly.
God, I hated that movie. Man, I actually, more I think about it, the more I dislike it.
Which one?
The Sabotage.
Yeah,
I like Sabotage.
From the
actually kinda
director
liked
of
it.
Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
it was
Well,
received very.
that's another thing about Schwarzenegger. He's not
Yeah.
afraid to play the villain. Most people are afraid to play the villain. I mean,
But he
it's still-
wasn't.
I thought he was like he wouldn't play the villain for a really long time. I thought that was like a bit of trivia about him.
Well, the Terminator
well, that
started
was
out as a
when he-
villain.
He was excited to play Mr. Freeze.
No, the thing
That
was
was
that
like the first one in a while.
at the point of T2, he couldn't play a villain anymore. At that point, now he can. It's been so long since he's been like really like popular. But at his heyday, when he came back for T2, I mean, even the trailer was like, he's back for good. You know, so and if you think about
Sabotage, everybody in the Sabotage was just a prick.
and
It wasn't that there were good guys or bad guys.
and the thing
They're
is about
mercs.
the
Well,
thing
it's, well, Sabotage is the fact that
T2, which-
he stole the money. And
Hmm.
it's kind of villainous, but kind of not.
He killed his whole team and took the money, right?
I mean, the thing about
Yeah,
T2,
but I didn't like his team, so I didn't mind.
if you hadn't seen the trailers for Terminator 2 and you just went in cold, I mean, imagine how great that hallway scene would have been, you know, if you just didn't know that Schwarzenegger was now good when he goes, "Get down." It's like, you know,
Get
that must
down.
have, the first test audience must have been like, "Oh my God, he's on her side. Oh my goodness," you know,
Yeah,
because it
pretty
doesn't
lit.
tip its until the trailers gave it away, of course. So
Well, let me ask you this, Rambo. What is Sylvester Stallone's legacy, not just in action movies, but in just movies in general, overall?
I think honestly, the reason why those two characters of Rocky and Rambo are his legacy, but I mean that in a good way, because you look at Rocky and it epitomizes his million-to-one shot rise to stardom, his underdog that he uses in many of his films. That a lot of people, one of the reasons why they like Stallone and a lot of his roles is that he always played an underdog, even in Rambo. And just the influence Rocky has in the pop culture of following your dreams, mirroring his own real life story, and that's a thing that he's kept throughout with his characters. And as well, and then with Rambo, not only do you have that aspect, but just the glory days of action, where like the '80s. What's one thing people think of the '80s? They think of either like slasher films, they think of other types of films, or they think of those big, larger-than-life heroes. And one of the biggest people think of is Rambo. And then even throughout, he had action films before like Nighthawks and so forth, but Rambo really is what got him into the action genre and helped him keep that action going, where he would get to play other action role characters. And I'm not sure the best way to explain, but Rocky and Rambo really do epitomize his legacy, where either he was the guy who made mistakes and he's the underdog, or he was the hero that he was infallible, that he could have faults, whether it be in Cliffhanger where he had faults, and the very beginning he fails. I mean, how many action movies begin with the hero failing so big time and a person dying? It's hard to say what his legacy is because it's technically not over yet. I mean, maybe he'll go into directing more instead of starring more like Clint Eastwood did. But I don't know, I keep going back to Rocky and Rambo. I think they really epitomize and what those characters were, and which followed throughout his career, and also how it all started. I think that it always goes back to those two characters for a reason.
and he
Well,
closed
what I
them
think
out
is
with
interesting about
dignity.
both of these guys, what I think is really interesting about both of these guys is that they have very similar backgrounds of coming from nothing, becoming huge megastar millionaires. Basically, they owned the 80s. Both of these guys who came from nothing.
Yep.
And, you know, like Mike said, with Schwarzenegger, you can say the same thing with Stallone. I mean, they're feel-good stories, you know. They prove that if you dream big, sometimes those dreams can come true. So I think that's one thing that they have in common, you know. Aside from being huge action stars of the 80s, they were also They had very similar backgrounds. So
I think Stallone's legacy includes being a good writer, being able to write a good script and tell a good story. I mean, he's got that over Schwarzenegger. Schwarzenegger didn't do that. But who's got the biggest film? I would argue T2. Box office, renown. I mean, T2 was
I think
the
I'd
biggest.
I think that's quantifiable, but I'd agree with that even just from an impact standpoint too.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that huge. Yeah, absolutely.
So that's a big one for Arnie right there.
yeah,
I have a question because I haven't. Has any of us eaten at a project or was it Hollywood?
Planet
I've
Hollywood.
been in one.
Planet.
yeah, I have.
No.
Years
Was
and years ago, I did.
Was the food anything special?
No,
Not that I recall.
Not
No.
really, no.
I was
It's
more
that
excited
little-
by
rock
Dan
out here.
Aykroyd's proton pack in a case, like right in my line of sight. That was my. That's
Yeah,
why I wanted to be there.
That was the Stallone and Schwarzenegger. So
Yeah.
My favorite little prop at Planet Hollywood, the one I went to in Orlando, Florida, they had a knife that Michael Myers used in Halloween 3. Even though Michael Myers wasn't in Halloween 3. But they had the knife that he used in Halloween 3.
I would have taken that to management, man.
What the hell is this?
Hey, you, come here.
I should have been like, look,
I
asshole.
get a free meal. Better comp me.
I was at the Hard Rock Cafe in Boston, and I was obsessed with this they had a pair of Jim Morrison's pants, and I couldn't take my eyes off them. I was like, these are the best pants. These are the best pants I've ever seen. These are incredible pants. Like suddenly I was obsessed with pants for some reason because they were just up in this glass case, and I was like, those are rocking pants. all I could think about through the meal was
Well, they had.
I already liked Jim Morrison. My estimation of Jim Morrison kept going up because of those pants.
They had a display case. It had the butcher knife in it. It said authentic screen used butcher knife by Michael Myers from Halloween 3, and it was a picture of Michael Myers from Halloween 6.
No.
Uh,
Oh.
Doesn't that just make you call into question like everything they have at those places?
Pretty
then?
much,
It's like,
yes.
oh,
yes.
God.
That made me call in. They even had a one of the outfits that Jean-Claude Van Damme wore in Cyborg, and it looked at least screen accurate. So I mean, I was like, okay, I'll give you the knife. You've got Van Damme's Cyborg outfit, so that's cool.
I don't think Schwarzenegger's involved in that anymore. I think he pulled out of Planet Hollywood.
I think they're all closed,
Yeah.
aren't they?
I think they're.
I don't know if
they're
they
done.
exist anymore.
Yeah.
I remember there was an episode of like Duckman that like made fun of that where it had like versions of him, those three, with Bruce Willis with them too, and it was all about like their like shared restaurant or whatever. It's pretty funny.
Well, Orc is watching the show tonight. He's in the chat. I'm going to leave it up to Orc. Orc, who won the debate tonight? Schwarzenegger or Stallone? And Orc, while you're mulling over that very, very heavy question, okay, I want you to put some thought into it.
I don't
Let's
know.
have-
Orc's a people pleaser. He doesn't want to let anybody down.
Let's have another segment of wise words with the Professor D Movie Mike. What do you got for us tonight, Mike?
Oh man, it's been a brutal week. I don't know if I have anything wise. No, I'm brain dead tonight. I'm drawing a blank.
Okay.
Don't stop.
Okay. Stingray Spotlight.
Oh man.
This is what happens without Orc's Corner. We got nothing.
What do we got with Stingray Spotlight tonight?
I'm gonna say, what's your favorite pizza topping, and who would you eat it with?
Italian sausage with the Italian stallion.
There you go.
Ah,
There you go.
Coasters with Jim Morrison's.
It seems like a
Sounded
no-brainer
weird.
if he wants to get some more money. Is that he could start an Italian stallion like pizzeria type place, pizza
That'd be
chain.
that would make a lot of money.
I mean,
That
yeah.
would. That'd make a lot of money.
But the porno is called the Italian Stallion as well.
That's true. Yes. That's true. Yes.
Well, but it was renamed that actually. It was called something like Jesse and it was like two people, a guy and a girl's house. That's what it was called. It was like Jesse and Sarah's house or something like that. And then they renamed it after the success of Rocky.
Okay.
I know my classic porn, so don't try to don't try to fool me.
We've got a winner according to Orc. Arnold Schwarzenegger and the Arnold Schwarzenegger side won the debate tonight. He says, "Sorry, Rambo, don't kill me."
I told you that was coming.
Look out for those explosive tipped arrows, Orc.
What is that? Is that Gozu?
I call it a tie. I like both of them equally. They're
Yeah, I mean,
entertaining.
How can you really select a winner? Because, I mean, you're talking about two icons, two titans, two behemoths. So, I mean,
Yeah.
there really can't be a winner. I think, if anything, tonight, we just shine the light on some of the worst, but mostly the best of these two behemoths. So
Basically, the two titans who ultimately embarrass themselves in the Expendables franchise.
Well, let me throw out a quick question then. If you were to go Stallone or Schwarzenegger, you pick one of each. What is your go-to movie with them in it? Not necessarily your favorite, but what is the
Okay, that's a good
casual weekend?
Well, I can definitely say Schwarzenegger has more go-to films for me than Stallone.
I would say that's true, mostly because I'm kind of like OCD. Like, if I want to watch Rocky, I won't just like put in Rocky 3. I got to start at the beginning, and I have to watch every one of them. Whereas I could put in Terminator 2 by itself, and I could just watch that, or I could, put in something else. And since he doesn't have as many franchises, Schwarzenegger does, he's got more like one-off movies that I could put in. So,
okay, but we're not debating here. We're just each saying what our go-to for each guy is.
For
Also-
Arnold, it's Predator, and for Stallone, it's Cobra. That's
Yeah,
for me.
I
I'll go with
agree.
Cobra.
My
I
Arnold is
agree.
also Predator. I'll have to think of Stallone. I'll come back to it.
yeah.
I'm going with. I agree with Rambo, Predator, and Cobra.
Mm-hmm. So,
Oh, that's hard. Cobra definitely, but I'm thinking, Total Recall. How can I pick one? There's Predators, Total Recall, there's Terminator. I could watch any one of those films at any time, even The Running Man. I don't know. It's hard. I can't pick one.
just pick Junior.
Maybe Rocky 3 for me for Stallone.
I do. That's
I
one of
think
my
I'll
favorite
go
Rockies.
Predator and Rocky 3. Rocky 3 is the first Rocky I saw, so it sort of has the biggest impact on me.
We have Mr. T and the Hulk Hogan and
Thunderlips.
the death of
Eye of the Tiger.
The
it's good shit.
meatball.
That's good
That's
shit.
one of the best endings of any movie, honestly. Like, I'm not even saying like in silly action. I mean, honestly, that's one of my favorite endings of a movie, when he and Apollo have their little private fight, and it freeze frames on that, goes to credits. I'm like, perfect ending.
I like how Creed sort of tells you who won the actual fight. I don't know whether he was lying, but I like that there's kind of an answer given in that movie.
Actually, my pick is the exact same as Orc's, T2 and Rocky 4. So, strangely enough, he put that up in the chat when I was about to say it. So
Cool.
I'll just go Cobra Terminator. That'll be it.
Which one would you guys rather have a beer with?
Stallone, hands down.
I mean, it's so hard.
I
I
think
think Stallone would be more interesting to talk to. I just find him more interesting in like, interviews and stuff.
but you'll have more laughs with Schwarzenegger, and you might get into trouble with him.
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
I've
maybe you'll
actually
get into
seen
trouble with him, but-
Schwarzenegger in person from like 500 feet away, because there was a time in the mid to late 90s that he owned some property in Cape Breton.
Yeah, but Arnold might get in conversation
I saw him
about
down on a
pumping
dock.
It's like coming. If you've seen Pumping Iron, you know what I mean. When you pump, it's like coming.
Yeah,
keep the feeling of comedy.
that's something iron. But yeah,
Eyeballs.
they'd both be great, but Stallone for me. I think Stallone would just be a more interesting person to get in a conversation with.
Yep.
Okay. What about you, Stingray?
Oh man, probably Schwarzenegger, but
You could talk to
I was just thinking,
Schwarzenegger.
I've spent a great deal of my life quoting Pumping Iron. That's hilarious.
Live your life by it.
And let's not forget that Schwarzenegger directed an
Episode of what?
Tales from the Crypt.
Oh,
Tales of.
Yeah, because the other night when we were talking, I was saying I don't think he directed anything. I had to look him up on IMDb, and there it was. He directed an episode.
And a
of that.
TV movie called Home for the Holidays. Arnold directed.
Nice.
I can't see him directing.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to try directing, like when he started doing movies again after the Governor stuff. I thought he was going to direct something, and
Cut! That was terrible. What's wrong with you?
he did some really weird.
Well, now
You
now
talk
he's
like
the
girly man.
Isn't
Now
he
he's-
in like Around
now
the World in 80 Days with like Jackie Chan?
yeah. Now he's the apprentice. So
Right. Yeah.
That's got to be like the most humiliating thing he's done.
Yeah, I don't know why he would even bother with that.
I don't know either, man. To me,
Let's see
that is so beneath him, honestly.
Yeah, agreed.
Let's see what's going on out in Sausage Factory Nation. Red Band Cast, our buddy Steven's watching with us tonight. How are you doing? He says his go-tos are Rambo and Predator. Good picks, definitely. DJ Donnelly says, I don't drink, but I would like to meet Arnold. Let's see. Max Punishment says everyone wins. That's true. Everyone here wins.
Yep.
I would like to meet Arnold because I would try to make him laugh all the time because I love his goofy laugh. He's got a good sense of humor. And I don't know if I could really understand Stallone. It's like, very good.
I think he's gotten a little better over the years.
He's kind of like
John
Bob Dylan, though.
John Dean says Rambo looks baked tonight.
Nah, it's how I always look, so.
That's his game face. That's all.
Exactly.
Max Punishment says Assassins is a good best worst.
I can see that. I can see that.
what about The Specialist?
Specialist.
I forgot about that.
I forgot about that one.
It's a terrible movie, but it holds a place in my heart because it was like I remember it was like one of my friend's birthday parties, and we rented it, so that was pretty cool to get some like nudity in there because it was like our parents totally don't know that we rented this movie that it has like nudity in it. So
Yeah, a real long sustained shot of Stallone's ass.
Joseph Purdue says
not the
Junior
perfect
is the worst for Arnold.
Agreed.
And Joseph Purdue also says Over the Top is the worst from Stallone.
Oh, has he seen Rhinestone?
I don't know. I think he's definitely done worse than that.
I disagree with Purdue on that.
Stallone not only directed, but he even appears in Staying Alive, the sequel to Saturday Night.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
That was a horrible sequel. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah.
In some of the Q&A on Ain't It Cool News, he talks about that movie, and he talks about how he had like a big falling out with the Bee Gees because he put some of his brother's music in the movie instead of theirs, and so they were pissed at him or something.
Well,
that Q&A from Ain't It Cool News, look it up. Like he talks like that's part of why I think talking to him at the bar would be so great, is he just really gets into some Hollywood shit that's interesting.
well, I mean, as we all know, the talent in the Stallone family all went to Frank. So, I mean,
Hawk, one of the greatest movies of all time. So
yes.
There you go.
I'm pretty sure Frank Stallone and like Daniel Baldwin and some other famous person's brother started some show on the WB where the premise of the show was like they are just the brothers of famous people. I wish I could remember what that show was called.
What about a Expendables movie with Frank Stallone,
Isn't Ron Howard's brother in a bunch of movies?
Clint Howard,
There you go.
Don Swayze.
Exactly. Joe Estevez.
I want to see that movie. Somebody
that might make more money.
Holy shit, that'd be amazing.
That might make more money than the Expendables that they've been wanting to make for a while.
Oh my god!
I don't think that's gonna happen.
It was gonna be like Linda Hamilton and Sigourney Weaver and all them.
What's that really shitty company that always makes movies for sci-fi?
Asylum.
I mean, I hate to say
they made their version of it.
Like an audience will at least tacitly accept over the hill action stars if
Brigitte
they're
Nielsen
male,
was the lead.
but they won't with females. You know, that's not the world we live in. They're
Was
not
it
going
Vivica
to
A.
be
Fox
like.
was in that too?
Yeah.
They were female mercenaries. Yeah, Asylum already did that.
She could do action. It's too bad she didn't do a bit more in her day.
Austin Carden is watching tonight. He tweets at us. He goes, for a low point for Schwarzenegger, I got to go with Batman and Robin. Huge stinker of a movie. Chris from Louisiana texts to us. He says, great show, guys. Thanks again for all the support. Thank you, man. Happy to hear that you're
Good to hear.
so happy to hear that you're moving back into your home. And we're really excited for you. We're glad to hear from you. DJ Tonley wants to know who would win in an arm wrestling match, Stallone or Schwarzenegger?
Now or in their prime?
Yeah, let's say in their prime.
That's a good question.
Do you see?
You're talking like Predator Schwarzenegger versus Rocky III Stallone?
There you go.
Wow.
I'll go Schwarzenegger.
When you see
Schwarzenegger
and Carl Weathers lock arms in Predator.
Yeah, Carl Weathers technically.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would go Schwarzenegger.
There's a great little Easter egg in Mortal Kombat X where if you pick the Carl Weathers version of Jax and you pick the it's the version of Johnny Cage where he's wearing
Fatigues.
The soccer outfit?
No, fatigues, like he's wearing a fatigue.
Right, yeah.
They walk up to each other in the pre-match and go, "You son of a," and they lock hands. It's really cool. It's really cool. Yeah, really cool.
I like what Johnny Cage says just when he sees Leatherface. He just goes, "That's just so fucked up," or something like that.
Yeah. I love that game.
Yeah.
Does anybody have anything that they would like to add? Because we've covered a lot. I think we've done a lot in this episode for both Stallone and Schwarzenegger. And
I would say if there's anybody out there that maybe hasn't explored their back catalog, they only know the high points, definitely go back and look at some of these movies.
Some interesting stuff.
There's some really good, maybe you'll get an understanding of what the 80s was like, and I don't know if you'll understand why they were popular, but, it's definitely a telling look at society back in the day.
I think it's fair to say that, going forward, we're always going to have big movie stars, obviously, but I don't know if we're really going to see anybody that we would put, in the same sort of status as far as like icons. So there's going to be icons, even after we're dead and stuff. But I don't know if there's going to be any that are sort of comparable to these two, really.
Where do we stand? Where do we stand on The Rock? Do we think he's as big, or I know he's not an action hero per se because he doesn't do those kind of movies, but I mean, when he first started, people were saying he's going to be the next Schwarzenegger. He does have the charisma. He is getting like bigger and bigger with every movie.
He's the highest paid actor.
They don't make action movies like that anymore.
No.
Yeah, that's really the problem. It's not even so much that The Rock can't do it.
It's the material he's given.
It's the material, because the world is basically seems to really like him, and which now he just lately got named like sexiest man too to give him that sort of appeal for whatever reason. But so he has all the tools in a lot of ways. But yeah, the era just doesn't sync up to it.
I think he's a perfect combination. He has the physicality of Schwarzenegger, but he has the talent of Stallone. I think he's a better actor. He's likable. He's got charisma. I think he can do anything, but they're just not giving him the right stuff. He hasn't had
good on that
one
HBO show. That whatever that was Ballers or whatever that show is. He has an HBO.
Yeah. I didn't see that, but yeah, I heard about that.
The show itself is kind of hit or miss, but The Rock is really good in it. He's got, to Mike's point, he's got some meat to sink into, and he does pretty well with it. And it's a more dramatic role than I would have expected from him.
I think
once he joined, I'm just going to say once he joined the Fast and Furious series, that's when it shot to the moon, because people liked it. They're like, oh, okay, it's okay. But once Fast 5 came out, it was like that's when the movies started making close to dollars. So
I think he started out making Schwarzenegger, Stallone-esque films, The Rundown, and Doom,
Scorpion King.
I mean, that was an arty film right there. Doom,
Conan right there.
So he definitely started out in that vein, but I don't know. Didn't he do a movie? Was it The Tooth Fairy?
Yeah.
He's had a couple of questionable choices there. What was the one where he was the quarterback and he had his daughter?
The Game Plan.
He's kind of, but he started out strong, and I hope they really use him well.
Yeah, if you guys have never,
Truth Fairy against him though. It's the same sort of thing as that Arnold would do back in the day, where he'd poke fun at
and
himself,
That's what I mean.
like something like Junior.
He's had his Junior moment already.
and he's fantastic in Pain and Gain. If you haven't seen that movie, so
Yeah.
That's
Well,
a
I mean,
fun
I know-
movie to watch, but I don't know. That's a whole other thing. Like, just because of it being based on a true story, it's like, wow, this is what Hollywood will do to you. Like, I know that the guy it's about was kind of an asshole, but is it really? Would you feel good if you were kidnapped by people and tortured and they tried to kill you, and then Hollywood made a comedy about it? So
Directed by Michael Bay.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I guess that guy was kind of an asshole, but I feel for him, man. That like, there's this comedy out. It's like, aha, look at this guy. They're trying to run him over with the car and torture him, and these guys are just two lovable oafs,
Well, I don't think there will be action heroes that are as big as Stallone and Schwarzenegger were, because I don't think they make those kinds of movies anymore.
Right.
Well, no one will
So,
embrace it that way.
we've got
And yeah, exactly.
we got Rock. We have Statham.
Right.
Carl Urban.
Liam Neeson.
They're
Liam
fine.
Neeson. Yeah, a lot of those guys are getting up there though.
Turn 50 for it to happen.
Oh, Chris Pratt. I think Chris Pratt's really starting to come out as with the Jurassic World. If you didn't like it, that's fine. And then of course the Guardians of the Galaxy. He's off into the Marvel universe. And
Isn't he the guy they talk about for an Indiana Jones remake that I'll have to like personally stop?
yeah,
Oh my god. Yeah. I'll join you.
He'd be great. He'd be great.
No.
And you have lesser ones like Michael Jai White and Scott Adkins and such. But
Yeah, and you feel
Yeah,
bad
they-
for those guys because they had some like at least good like martial arts skills and stuff, but they came along, and we talked about this a long time ago when we did a martial arts show, that certain guys like that, their talents are kind of wasted because they just, their prime years were in an era where it wasn't as, it wasn't really a thing or a fad anymore. Because I think those guys are really good. I really like Scott Adkins, and he can do a lot of cool stuff and even kind of act. And you think, if he came along at the same time as some of those other guys like Jean-Claude Van Damme, he might have been a comparable star. But nowadays, he's just sort of a guy that appears in movies as like a henchman. And all the movies where he's like the main guy are like straight to video or straight to Netflix or whatever, which is kind of too bad.
It's either going to be Chris Pratt or Ryan Reynolds. Pick your poison. Pick your poison.
well, I love Deadpool.
It's not
and
like I
think he's
dislike
perfect
the
for
guy. I don't. I'm just I hold things.
yeah, like you said, it's just a different era with a different kind of action movies. And even if they try to make that, I don't know if a lot of audience would see it in the theater or it would just go straight to video.
I think there's as much as people loved the '80s coming into the 2000s, I think there's kind of a blowback against the cheesiness of it, and if they try to get too '80s, people kind of point that out they want, because Christopher Nolan really came in and started bringing more darker reality style, and they kind of got rid of the funny. So I don't know
I
if
guess so.
that kind of stuff would play that well.
I don't
And
lay
a lot
that
of
all
times.
at Christopher Nolan's.
No, that was an example.
The
It's his
90s
fault.
was really where the transition happened, right? It was during the 90s where like action movies could still be ridiculous, but they were trying to make them a little maybe more smart. And it's kind of laughable now when you think of how dumb some action 90s movie. But I just mean you sort of see that sort of thing. A movie I think that brought toward that I think influenced somebody like Christopher Nolan was probably Heat.
Oh yeah.
I was just saying how in the early 2000s, the 80s were hugely popular again. You had all these,
Right.
and coming into the 210, you have all these old bands getting back together and all the sequels to all these old movies. I think that's starting to die out a little bit, and it's not as popular as it was several years ago.
Well, that's how it always goes, though. We always just get nostalgia for like the decade from before. Like in the 70s, people were into the 50s and they had Happy Days and stuff like that. I don't really remember much about the 80s being like nostalgic for the 60s, although I assume there were probably a lot of like former hippie types like you would see they make fun of it on like Family Ties and stuff like that, right? It's like, oh, it's Reagan's America, but we pined for the 60s when we were flower children. And definitely when I was growing up in the 90s, there was a lot of fascination with the 70s. That 70s show came out. But I mean, when I was in junior high, girls were wearing bell bottoms and stuff, and a lot of people were like, yeah, 70s are cool, man. And yeah, that's sort of what happened, because it's just about that certain generation that grew up with it hitting a certain age, and that's why I've been nostalgic for the 90s for like at least the past 7 or 8 years, just because of my age range. And it's almost mind blowing, but soon we will see a generation that is going to be like talking about, oh, remember the O's or the aughts or whatever the hell they call the 2000s, and people like us are just gonna be like, what was good about that? But it's just a generational thing.
I
But
think you can really tell the '90s were influenced by the '70s. Man, the grunge was that was
Right.
'70s music regurgitated.
in a
Basically.
way, yeah, like some of the shoegazing stuff that started in the '90s was very '70s influence for sure. But that's a whole other thing. But yeah, that's exactly why people talked about like there almost being like a renaissance of the old school action and it never actually getting off the ground. It's because you just can't redo history. You can do some stuff and make some people feel happy and say, "Oh, that brings back nostalgic memories," but it's not really going to kickstart going back. You never go back. You always go forward.
I do have a quick question, if it's okay, about
Go ahead.
Arnold and Stallone. What film of each would you find to be their most underrated?
Oh, good one.
Oh man.
That's late.
Nighthawks for Stallone. I really enjoyed
Ooh, nice
Nighthawks.
That's a good
And
one.
I'm gonna go Last Action Hero for Schwarzenegger. I really
thought you might say that.
I think that's really underappreciated, and I don't think it really resonated properly for what it was.
Movie that I think is better now, like better appreciated now than it was at the time.
Yeah, probably. Just like I think maybe the underrated one for Stallone might be Demolition Man.
I need to go back and rewatch Demolition Man, I think.
Because I feel like Demolition Man at the time, everything seemed too on the nose. But now when you look at it, you're like, oh yeah, because it's supposed to be like about like a future society and stuff like that. I mean, it's not like, oh yeah, now we're living in a world exactly like that. Of course we aren't. But I think some of those things like they actually resonate a little more now, like than they did at the time. Where it seems like that. I mean, I'm not gonna make an argument that it's like some great movie or anything. It's full of some silly stuff, but I think that might be his underrated film.
I wish they had that shell thing. I'm tired of whopping. I want the shell thing.
But if they start issuing tickets for cursing, I'm fucked.
Yeah.
Murder, death, kill.
I'm trying to. I guess I would have to. Is Cobra considered underrated?
Oh man, that could be.
I don't know. I have no
I think
idea.
it is.
No one really likes it, so sure.
I was gonna say, like, I think
I definitely
we
don't
seem
like
to be more aware film-wise than most people. I think Cobra is probably in general audience minds underrated. Like, I don't think people generally like that movie.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people that aren't even aware of it. It's more of the thing.
Probably. Yeah. As far as Arnold's concerned, I mean, geez, Pete, you know. I mean, I kind of want to side with Mike as far as Last Action Hero because I do like that movie, and I think the more time that's passed since that movie, kind of the better it gets.
I mean, they pick out all the. It is the Scream of action films, and Scream was huge, and this movie tanked, and I don't understand because to me they're equal. They do just as good a job roasting what they're roasting.
I guess
all the cliches are there, all the unbelievable shit. Like when Schwarzenegger's character comes into reality, he actually gets shot, and in the movies he doesn't get shot. And,
well, I think that movie was probably a little bit ahead of its time, and what audiences expected from. Like if that movie came out today with Arnold in it, people would probably love it. Because he's lampooning his own legacy.
Exactly.
At the time, I think people were expecting
he did it all too early.
Yeah, exactly. They're expecting True Lies, which came out after.
Exactly.
The same thing happened, I think, with Hudson Hawk. People went in expecting Die Hard, and they got the Naked Gun.
I love that movie too.
Which is why, like,
I think you're emboldening that movie more than it deserves.
No, Hudson Hawk is a genuine classic.
It's awesome.
Yeah, no, I can't see that either. But yeah, I've heard plenty of people that have said like how much they like New Nightmare, and a lot of people are like New Nightmare should have been like the sequel, but it's like New Nightmare only works if you have a bunch of sequels before it, and some of them getting shitty.
Yeah,
so, you need the timing. If New Nightmare came out in like 1986, it
wouldn't work.
Yeah, it wouldn't make. Yeah, it wouldn't work.
Wouldn't make sense.
Well, let's close out this show with one final question.
Oh boy.
Who had the better deltoids? I'm joking. Let's go ahead. Let's close the show out. And huge thanks to everybody who joined us tonight. Huge thanks to everybody who commented in the comment section of the video. To everybody who tweeted at us. Again, congratulations to Chris for being able to finally move back into your home after this nightmare flood. That's all finally over with. So I'm very happy for you and your family. And thanks to everybody who joined me tonight for this show.
Wouldn't miss it.
And
Is next week going to be Frank Stallone versus Patrick Schwarzenegger?
Yes.
yeah, no, next week
Kind of
is
has
just
to
going
be
to,
now.
Con
next
Howard
week,
versus Don Swayze.
next
What
week
about
is
you,
just going to be our celebration of Frank Stallone. That's the entire episode.
Take it back. Do. Take it back. There you go.
You guessed it, Frank Stallone.
Yes. His win. I love it.
All right, guys. Well, everybody out there have a great week. We'll see you next Thursday live at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And peace.
Later, guys.
Have a great week.